Chapter 6088. The shop assistant was startled and hurriedly said with an apologetic smile, "Vice President Wei, what shopkeeper Kong is trying to say is there a misunderstanding here? As far as we know, we haven't sold a lot of goods to you recently. I wonder if you can provide us with the purchase receipt so that we can check it." In fact, Kong Mingming was not the real shopkeeper of the Central Chamber of Commerce. He was just a part-time manager for a period of time, so this shop assistant rushed to speak. After all, they were the ones doing the business. If they offended a big customer, Kong Mingming could turn around and leave, but they couldn't be so unrestrained. Naturally, they had to nip it in the bud. Kong Mingming glared at the shop assistant discontentedly, but after thinking about it, what he said made sense. First, check if there was any problem with the receipt of the vice president. If they dared to blackmail the Central Chamber of Commerce, he would teach them a lesson and let them know why the flowers were so red. Wei Jiating was prepared. He took out the receipt issued by the North Island Central Chamber of Commerce and shook it. He pointed to the date on it and said, "Look carefully. It's your Chamber of Commerce, right? Although it was bought in the North Island, you promised that all branches would be the same." Kong Mingming grabbed the receipt, looked through it casually, and threw it back to Wei Jiating. "Okay, since you have the receipt, I'll help you check if there's any problem." Wei Jiating's face darkened. This bastard was too arrogant. How could he be a shopkeeper with such an attitude? Why hadn't the Central Chamber of Commerce closed down? If the Hong's Chamber of Commerce had such a shopkeeper, he would have caught him and killed him 100 times. Unless the arrogant person was his man, it would be a different story. Kong Mingming told the shop assistant to find a maintenance staff. Because the Central Chamber of Commerce sold goods from the secular world, it also trained many talents in this field. Most of these people were people who couldn't practice or had extremely low levels of practice. Being able to get a decent job in the Central Chamber of Commerce, they naturally treasured it. Compared to Kong Xiaoming, who came from the common world, they were much more professional. Soon, the shop assistant hurried over with a middle-aged man. He put down the toolbox in his hand and began to repair it. Wei Jiating originally wanted to lose his temper. But now, he couldn't say anything, so he could only wait patiently. After the time it took for an incense stick to burn, the result came out. "Shopkeeper Kong, Vice President Wei, there's a problem with this batch of goods. All the chips have been pierced by static electricity, causing the goods to be damaged. It'll be quite troublesome to repair them. Furthermore, this is not our Chamber of Commerce's responsibility, so we don't have to bear any costs."
The middle-aged man packed up his tools and cupped his fists at Kong Mingming and Wei Jiating. Kong Mingming immediately became complacent. He laughed and looked at Wei Jiating. "Vice President Wei, did you hear that? You broke something, and now you want to blackmail our Central Chamber of Commerce. Do you really think that our Central Chamber of Commerce is easy to bully? Bullshit. Do you think I would blackmail you for something like this? It is clear that your Central Chamber of Commerce sold defective goods to me, and you still refuse to admit it. This guy is also one of your people. No matter what he says, of course he's on your side. Do you really think I'm stupid?" Wei Jiating exploded. He jumped up and pointed at Kong Mingming as he roared. Wei Jiating didn't know what static electricity was. Anyway, he was sure that the Central Chamber of Commerce sold him defective goods. He had to vent his anger no matter what. Otherwise, as the vice president of the Hong Chamber of Commerce, how could he continue to stay in Middle Island? "You idiot, do you think you're so smart? You want to use this kind of trick to ruin our Central Chamber of Commerce's reputation? What a joke." Kong Mingming didn't back down. He also jumped up and pointed at Wei Jiating as he scolded. Kong Mingming suddenly felt that Wei Jiating was jealous of the Central Chamber of Commerce's business. That's why he wanted to use this kind of method to destroy it. If he could settle this matter, it would be a great achievement. Maybe the higher-ups would be happy and let him lead Zhongpingliang. Kong Mingming originally wanted to find some trouble. Now that he had this idea, he couldn't stop himself. He hoped that Wei Jiating would quickly make a move so that he could take the opportunity to make a name for himself. Wei Jiating didn't know what Kong Mingming was thinking. He was so angry that he laughed. He waved his hand and got his men to surround Kong Mingming and the others. Kong, if you don't give me an explanation today, don't blame me for being impolite. What's the Central Chamber of Commerce? Why don't you find out what's the status of Middle Island's Hong Chamber of Commerce? How dare you trick us? You really don't know how to spell the word death. Wei Jiating laughed coldly and stared at Kong Mingming. The Central Chamber of Commerce's business was good in Middle Island. However, they had never shown any outstanding strength. The original Chamber of Commerce tolerated them because they didn't have any conflict of interest with the Central Chamber of Commerce's products. Otherwise, they would have joined forces to suppress the Central Chamber of Commerce. Now, Wei Jiating felt that he should represent the old Chamber of Commerce in Middle Island to teach the Central Chamber of Commerce how to behave. They shouldn't think that they could bully the old Chamber of Commerce just because their business was good. However, Kong Mingming wasn't shocked.
Wei Jiating's reaction was exactly what he wanted. He was just worried that he didn't have an excuse to make a name for himself. Now, it came straight to his doorstep. Wei Jiating, you dare to come to our Central Chamber of Commerce and behave atrociously. It seems that you know how to spell the word death. Fine, I'll leave a deeper impression on you today. Kong Mingming laughed and clapped his hands 3 times. In an instant, 10 figures suddenly rushed out from every corner of the Central Chamber of Commerce and surrounded Wei Jiating and his men. Before they could react, they directly launched an attack. Wei Jiating was shocked. Just as he got into a defensive posture, the followers he brought with him had already fallen to the ground. They didn't have the slightest ability to resist. Kong, you dare to attack me. All the big Chamber of Commerce in Middle Island won't let go of your Central Chamber of Commerce. Wei Jiating roared loudly. Unfortunately, it didn't have any effect on Kong Mingming. He had the power in his hands. If he wasn't happy, he could beat him up. Kong Mingming laughed strangely and joined the encirclement. While the masters of the Central Chamber of Commerce besieged Wei Jiating, he also went up to give them a few punches and kicks. His mood suddenly became indescribably comfortable. Wei Jiating was speechless. He could only groan and roll on the ground with his head in his hands. He really did not expect that the people from the Central Chamber of Commerce would dare to attack him so openly. Was there still any law? Chapter 6089. As the vice president of the Hong Chamber of Commerce, he was thrown onto the street like a dead dog. It was really embarrassing. Wei Jia covered his face and lay on the ground, looking at the door of the Central Chamber of Commerce slowly closing. He swore in his heart that he would definitely get revenge. Whether it was the Central Chamber of Commerce or that bastard Kong, he would kill them all. Because of this, Wei Jia went back to his backer in the Hong Chamber of Commerce and complained tearfully. He raised Kong Mingming's behavior to the level of the Central Chamber of Commerce's hostility and contempt towards the Hong Chamber of Commerce. Then, the Hong Chamber of Commerce really started to take action against the Central Chamber of Commerce, and both sides entered a state of hostility. However, these were all things that happened later. At this point in time, Lin Yi had no idea that a small action of his would have such serious consequences. If he had known, he would definitely have advised Wei Jia to buy a few carts of things from the Central Chamber of Commerce. At this moment, Lin Yi was setting up a formation in the Tiandan Pavilion. In order to ensure that it would still be safe when he left Middle Island, Lin Yi took great pains. With the help of the ghost, he set up several level 6 defense formations, trapping formations, illusion formations, killing formations, and so on for the Tiandan Pavilion. If it weren't for the fact that he could only buy the formation flags for the Mystic level formation, he would have asked the Ghost to set up the Earth level formation. Fortunately, within the range of Middle Island, there were enough level 6 formations. Especially since these level 6 formations were formed by the Ghost's combination of his own formation skills and the 1000 amplification formation. Even an Earth level formation master would not be able to easily crack these formations. It was definitely more than enough to protect the Tiandan Pavilion. Through these few days of learning and assisting in setting up the formation, Lin Yi's formation skills had also made great progress. Even without the Ghost, he was already a genuine Mystic level formation master, which was quite impressive. Lin Yi, when are you going to the South Continent? Tian Chan took the control formation flag from Lin Yi and pretended to ask casually. Languze and the others had been gone for a few days. Lin Yi obviously set up the formation to ensure the safety of the Tiandan Pavilion, which meant that he already had the idea of leaving. Lin Yi pondered for a moment and shook his head slightly. In a few days, there may be new news from the secular world. The day he received the reply, Lin Yi sent another letter to the common world. Perhaps there would be a reply in a few days. They didn't have any news about Han Jingjing last time, but maybe they would this time. In addition to Han Jingjing's matters, Lin Yi was not idle these days. He was also asking about the transit station, as well as the whereabouts of Rock Candy, Song Lingrui, and the others. He had been on Heavenly Island for several years, and they had never appeared. Lin Yi had wandered around the islands, but he had not heard any news. There was an organization in the Middle Island that specialized in collecting and selling information. Lin Yi had not paid attention to it before, but when he visited Okuda State, he heard about it and immediately issued various tasks. What Lin Yi did not lack now was spirit jades. After spending a lot, all the tasks he issued became the most important and urgent. No matter what news he got, it was a happy situation for both sides. Tian Chan nodded and showed a faint smile on her face. She was naturally happy that Lin Yi could stay for a few more days. When Lin Yi finished setting up the formation of the Tiandan Pavilion, the medicine sect on the opposite side was discussing how to deal with Lin Yi. Jing Dongxing, Jing Dongjue, and Jing Tianqing were all present. This time, the Jing family did not suffer heavy losses on the extreme North Island, but they definitely did not gain much. The only consolation was that the few elixirs refined by Lin Yi were very good, which could be considered to have made up for part of the loss. Lin Yi has already soared to the sky. I think it's better not to provoke him for the time being. Moreover, with the Hai Na Dan, our focus should also lean towards the East Continent. When we return to the East Continent, a mere Tiandan Pavilion is nothing to worry about. Jing Dongxing had obviously shifted his attention to how to curry favor with Zhuang Yifan, so he was very unwilling to continue to oppose Lin Yi, lest there be more complications. Cousin, what you're saying is wrong. Did you forget what Zhuang Yifan said in his letter? He and Lin Yi are obviously connected. How can a mere Hai Na Dan compare to Lin Yi? If we don't solve the problem, even if you return to the East Continent, I'm afraid you can't escape from the shadow of Lin Yi. Jing Dongjue sneered. He did not dare to provoke Lin Yi now, but it was certainly impossible for Jing Dongxing to leave without doing anything. Jing Dongxing's face suddenly turned ugly. How could he not remember Zhuang Yifan's reply? There was only one sentence in the letter, which was extremely shocking and concise: "Fuck you." Hearing Jing Dongjue's words, he really felt a little uncertain. Did he really have to get rid of Lin Yi first? Grandpa's, Lin Yi is actually not a big deal. If we are not a match for him openly, then we can act secretly. I don't believe that this guy has no flaws. Among the three, Jing Tianqing had the most resentment towards Lin Yi, so he was also the most determined to deal with Lin Yi. In particular, this guy already had a powerful organization behind him. Even the northernmost island was almost destroyed by the organization, so what was a mere Lin Yi? After knowing that he would be the focus of the organization's training, Xing Tianqing's confidence soared. This so-called action in the dark was just a pretense of modesty because it was not convenient to say it directly. This matter should be discussed at length, or according to the previous plan, we should slowly cut off Lin Yi's wings. Xing Dongxing waved his hand and proposed a safe plan. This time, they did not look for Tong Woli to discuss with them. In fact, they felt that there was nothing to discuss. After all, it was just a few words. Xing Dongjue could not come up with any good ideas at the moment, so he could only nod in agreement. At this moment, someone touched the restriction of the secret room, as if there was something urgent. Xing Tianqing opened the restriction and walked out. He saw a disciple of the medicine sect standing respectfully outside, and asked with a slight impatience, "What's the matter? Don't you know that we are discussing important matters here?" "Greetings, young master, I know my mistake." However, shopkeeper Kong Ming of the Central Chamber of Commerce came to visit and asked to see you, young master. He said that there is a very urgent matter, so... The disciple of the medicine sect cupped his fists and bowed, slightly nervous. Kong Ming of the Central Chamber of Commerce. I don't know him, what urgent matter could there be? Moreover, it is so late now, tell him to come tomorrow if he has something to do. Xing Tianqing frowned slightly and did not want to talk to Kong Ming. Chapter 60-90. There was basically no hope for Dan Hole. If he didn't make new allies, medicine sect wouldn't be able to deal with Lin Yi. Xing Tianqing thought about it and agreed. He wouldn't lose anything if he met them. He might as well go and take a look. Alright, second grandpa, I'll go and take a look. We'll talk about what happened just now later. Xing Tianqing cupped his fist and walked to the front hall. Kong Ming was in a good mood after beating up Wei Jia. He was drinking tea in the medicine sect's hall and didn't show any impatience. He came to find Xing Tianqing because he had a mission. To Kong Ming, the more missions he had, the better. That way, he could accumulate merits. Who knows, he might be able to surpass Zhong Pingliang one day. Xing Tianqing walked into the hall and saw that Kong Ming seemed younger than him. He looked down on him and nodded at him indifferently as a greeting. Shopkeeper Kong, right? Why are you looking for me? Xing Tianqing sat down proudly. As for the idea of finding an ally, he threw it to the back of his mind. Even if he wanted to find an ally, he had to have the upper hand in terms of momentum first. Only then would he be in an advantageous position in the alliance. You're Xing Tianqing. You don't look like much. Kong Ming was unhappy with Xing Tianqing's attitude. Who did this guy think he was? He dared to be so arrogant in front of him. Xing Tianqing's face darkened and he snorted, "What do you mean? Are you here to make fun of me? Is being the shopkeeper of the Central Chamber of Commerce that great? Alright, I won't talk nonsense with you. The higher-up said that you are worth training, so they sent me here to guide you. But looking at you, it seems like you don't think much of my guidance." Kong Xiaoming chuckled and took a sip from his teacup. This feeling of being pretentious wasn't bad at all. Higher UPS. Could it be that you are? Xing Tianqing's face changed slightly and his eyes showed a hint of surprise. His contact with the organization was mostly through long-distance communication. Even if they met, he didn't really see their faces. If Kong Ming was really sent by the organization, it would be Xing Tianqing's first time seeing him in person. As long as you know. You performed very well on the far North Island, so the organization asked me to focus on training you after you came back. Kong Ming waved his hand, with a calm look on his face, but in his heart, he was secretly proud. I didn't know it was shopkeeper Kong. Please forgive me for not going out to welcome you. Enchanting seemed to have a spring installed on his buttocks. He jumped up in an instant, bowed, cupped his fists, and approached Kong Ming with a big smile on his face to ask for forgiveness. Although it was just a few words, Enchanting was sure that Kong Ming was definitely a member of that mysterious organization. No matter what his position was, he was much stronger than a newcomer like him, so he did not dare to slight him. Kong Ming wasn't surprised at all. He put down the teacup in his hand and nodded. Then, he waved his hand casually and said, "You don't have to be so polite. Let's sit down and talk. Shopkeeper Kong is a distinguished guest. Please take a seat." Enchanting bowed with a flattering smile and respectfully asked Kong Ming to change his seat, trying to erase the bad impression he had when he first came in. No. After all, this is the place of your medicine sect. It's not good for me to be a noisy guest. Sit down quickly and talk about business. Kong Ming was very satisfied with the change of Enchanting's attitude. He pretended to be very generous and continued to show off happily. Enchanting didn't dare to continue to disobey, but it was not good for him to sit back. So, he simply sat down in the chair next to Kong Ming and asked respectfully, "Shopkeeper Kong, why did you come back to help me?" Here's the thing. We know the situation of the medicine sect in the Middle Island quite well. Originally, what happened to you had nothing to do with us. But now that we are all on the same side, we should help you more or less. Kong Ming said with a big smile, as if he really came to give a lot of benefits to the medicine sect. Enchanting didn't know how to answer, so he could only nod and say some empty words like thanks. Kong Ming didn't continue to talk nonsense. He opened the cloth bag beside him, revealing a delicate elixir furnace inside, and there was a tablet as a display screen on it. See? This is the artifact that can change the situation of your medicine sect. Kong Ming smiled mysteriously. He bent his index finger and gently tapped on the elixir furnace twice, making a clear buzzing sound. "Shopkeeper Kong, what kind of artifact is this?" Enchanting hurriedly cooperated and asked, but he was a little disdainful in his heart. "Isn't it just an ordinary elixir furnace and a tablet of the Central Chamber of Commerce? Is it an innovative artifact? Hey, if I don't tell you, you won't be able to guess what kind of artifact it is. Come on, I'll show you directly and let you broaden your horizons." Kong Ming had a sense of superiority in his heart. He directly took out the materials of a 5th-grade recover pill and was ready to refine it on the spot. Enchanting was also an alchemist, so he naturally knew the use of these materials. He didn't say anything at the moment, but just smiled and watched Kong Ming operate. Before he figured out the strangeness of this elixir furnace, he really didn't know what to say. Kong Ming moved very quickly. He opened the tablet on the elixir furnace and selected the formula of the 5th-grade recover pill from many elixir names. Then he used his genuine qi to transform the elixir fire and began to refine the elixir. The alchemy curve of the 5th-grade recover pill appeared on the screen of the tablet. Every time there was a change, there would be a prompt sound, and the temperature of the elixir fire would be automatically adjusted. There was no need for Kong Ming to worry at all. All he needed to do was to steadily transfer the genuine qi. In the process of alchemy, Kong Ming even had the leisure to chat with Enchanting. After more than 2 hours, the tablet made a clear sound, and the 5th-grade recover pill was completed. See? This is the alchemy artifact I'm going to give you. All elixirs below the 5th-grade yellow level can be refined with this automatic alchemy artifact. The only thing you need is a practitioner who can convert genuine qi to elixir fire, and continuously transfer genuine qi to maintain the elixir fire. Kong Ming opened the elixir furnace, took out the 5th-grade recover pill, and proudly presented it to Enchanting. Jing Tianqing's heart was like a stormy sea, and his whole body was a little sluggish. This completely subverted his previous common sense of alchemy. In just a little more than 2 hours, he could easily refine a high-grade 5th-grade recover pill. It was really hard for him to accept. Chapter 6091. Shopkeeper Kong, how many of these automatic alchemy artifacts do you have? Are there any other restrictions? Jing Tianqing felt his throat was a little dry. He swallowed his saliva with difficulty and asked. Don't worry, you can have as many as you want, as long as you can sell them. As for the restrictions, you have seen it. Any practitioner who can condense the elixir fire can use it. The only difference is the amount of true qi. If you want to refine a level 5 yellow level elixir, the amount of true qi you need to maintain is definitely not something a practitioner who has not even reached the foundation building realm can handle. Kong Mingming enjoyed Jing Tianqing's respectful eyes very much. He was in a good mood and spoke more politely. Great! With this automatic alchemy artifact, the business of Tiandan Pavilion will immediately collapse by more than half. Jing Tianqing waved his fist excitedly. He was determined to deal with Lin Yi. Now with the help of this treasure, he could deal a fatal blow to Tiandan Pavilion. Although Tiandan Pavilion sold a lot of high-level elixirs, the real big fish was always the low-level elixirs. With this automatic alchemy artifact that could refine all level 5 elixirs, who would go to Tiandan Pavilion to buy elixirs below level 5? In fact, just refining a 5th-grade elixir was definitely not worthy of the title of a divine artifact. Adding the prefix of automatically refining elixirs was also not enough. However, with such a rare treasure, even if it was slightly exaggerated and crowned with the title of a divine artifact, probably no one would take it seriously. Kong Mingming laughed and was very happy with Jing Tianqing's statement. In fact, this kind of good thing could also be sold by the Central Chamber of Commerce, but the agreement between the Central and Lin Yi was still valid. Such a blatant suppression of Tiandan Pavilion was equivalent to directly tearing up the agreement. But selling it to the medicine sect was different. It could not only achieve the purpose of targeting Lin Yi, but also support and cultivate Jing Tianqing. It could be said to be a good thing to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. In particular, Jing Tianqing clearly stated that he would target Tiandan Pavilion, which made Kong Mingming even more satisfied. Shopkeeper Kong, would you like me to inform my 2 grandfathers about this? If it's convenient for you, why don't you ask them to come and pay their respects? Jing Tianqing was very willing, but after all, he was not in charge of the medicine sect, so he still had to go through the necessary formalities. Kong Mingming had spent more than 2 hours demonstrating alchemy. Jing Dongxing and Jing Dongjue were probably a little anxious from waiting. If Kong Mingming had no objections, it would be better for them to meet and discuss the details. No problem. Get someone to invite them over. Kong Mingming was very satisfied with the word greet, so he waved his hand generously and decided to give them a chance to greet him. Jing Tianqing did not dare to be negligent. He quickly excused himself and hurriedly ran out to find someone to invite Jing Dongxing and the others. He also arranged for someone to prepare food and send it up. It was already late, so eating and chatting would make the atmosphere more pleasant. Jing Dongxing and Jing Dongjue were indeed a little impatient, but it was not appropriate for them to directly go to see, lest they offended the Central Chamber of Commerce. Hearing that Kong Mingming invited them, they hurried over. Just as the food began to be gradually delivered, the 4 chatted while eating, and carefully deliberated the details of this cooperation. In fact, there was nothing to discuss. The Central Chamber of Commerce was willing to provide this kind of good thing to the medicine sect for sale. Before knowing the agreement between the Central Chamber of Commerce and Lin Yi, the several people of the Jing family were all grateful, feeling that they had been hit by a pie from the sky. They did not raise many objections at all. Almost everything that Kong Mingming said, they nodded and agreed. If it were not for the intention of supporting Jing Tianqing, Kong Mingming might have squeezed the Jing family. Although he did not squeeze them, he still put most of the profits under the name of the Central Chamber of Commerce. At dawn the next day, the medicine sect, which had obtained enough automatic alchemy furnaces from the Central Chamber of Commerce, began to prepare for sales. Their approach was also very simple. They arranged more than a dozen alchemy apprentices, each with an automatic alchemy furnace and a few bodyguards. Under the banner of the medicine sect, they began to demonstrate the magic of the automatic alchemy furnace at various busy intersections in Zhongdao. Sometimes sales were so simple. No matter how you talked, it was absolutely not as effective as seeing it with your own eyes. In just one morning, the name of the automatic alchemy artifact had ignited the public opinion in Zhongdao. No matter where you were, you could hear the keywords medicine sect, automatic alchemy artifact, and so on were constantly mentioned. As for the headquarters of the medicine sect, it was crowded with people who wanted to buy the automatic alchemy furnace. Who knew how many such good things there were? If they were a step late and failed to grab it, wouldn't they suffer a big loss? Jing Dongxing and Jing Dongjue stood on the second floor of the medicine sect, watching the crowd below, and all of them were smiling. The Tiandan pavilion opposite the door was impacted by the automatic alchemy furnace. Today, it finally became deserted again. Although the street was full of people, no one went to the Tiandan pavilion to buy elixirs. Tianqing, this child, has really grown up. Our Jing family will depend on him in the future. He was able to establish a relationship with the Central Chamber of Commerce and suppress the Tiandan pavilion like this in one day. Before today, we didn't even dare to think about it. Jing Dongjue said with a laugh, and he was generous with his praise for Jing Tianqing's performance. Don't praise him too much. This kid can't stand it. He will become arrogant in the future. Moreover, the Tiandan pavilion may not always be suppressed. After all, today everyone is just looking for something new. In the future, when they need elixirs above the 5th grade, they will still go to the Tiandan pavilion to buy. Jing Dongxing seemed modest, but in fact, he was very proud. Jing Tianqing was his grandson. If he was not proud, who would be? As for the sales of elixirs above the 5th grade in the Tiandan pavilion, Jing Dongxing was not worried at all. With the huge popularity brought by the automatic alchemy furnace, people who wanted to buy elixirs above the 5th grade would first think of the medicine sect. There was no doubt about this. As long as the medicine sect could come up with elixirs of the same quality as the Tiandan pavilion, they could take away most of the customers of the Tiandan pavilion. Unfortunately, Jing Dongxing himself knew that if he wanted to compete with Lin Yi in alchemy, he basically had no chance of winning. Don't worry about the future. Being able to see them embarrassed for a day is enough for me to be happy for a long time. Jing Dongjue smiled and waved his hand, and then listened for a while. Many people below were talking about Jing Tianqing and the automatic alchemy furnace. Chapter 6092. In fact, this kind of cover-up was of no use to Lin Yi. How could Jing Tianqing make an automatic alchemy furnace? But as long as they weren't caught in the open, they weren't afraid of Lin Yi saying anything. Cousin, did you hear that? Everyone is talking about how Tianqing is the most outstanding disciple of our Jing family. He's even one of the best geniuses of Middle Island. There's almost no one in the younger generation who can compare to him. I also think he's the savior of our Jing family. In my opinion, it's too wasteful to let Tianqing stay in Middle Island. We really need to find a way to send him back to East Continent. That's where he can use his talent. No one knew what Jing Dongjue was thinking, but he suddenly mentioned East Continent. Originally, he was very reluctant to let Jing Dongxing and Jing Tianqing go back to East Continent immediately, leaving him to face Lin Yi's Tiandan Pavilion alone. But now he obviously changed his mind. Oh. Dongjue, do you have any ideas? Why don't you tell me? Xing Dongxing smiled slightly. With the great situation created by the automatic alchemy furnace, he wasn't in a hurry to return to East Continent. If he could make a name for himself in Middle Island, he would be more confident when he returned to East Continent. Of course, his future development would be easier. Here's what I'm thinking. After a few days, when medicine sect situation stabilizes, we'll let Tianqing take Henerdan to East Continent with Okuda Dam's fleet. With Tianqing's intelligence in Henerdan as a stepping stone, he'll definitely get Zhuang Yifan's favor. It'll be easy for us to get a foothold. At that time, you can go back to help us, and our Jing family will be able to rise again in East Continent. Jing Dongjue whispered his plan. In fact, it was the same old plan, nothing new. But their original plan was for Jing Dongxing and Jing Tianqing to go find Zhuang Yifan together, with Jing Dongxing as the leader. Now, Jing Tianqing went alone. Maybe the effect would be better than the two of them going together. Jing Dongxing nodded slightly, seeming to be a little moved by this proposal. Seeing the prosperity of the medicine sect, he really didn't want to let go. So it was indeed a good proposal to let Jing Tianqing go to the East Continent alone, and he would stay for a while to manage the medicine sect. This matter is not urgent. Anyway, the Okuda Dam fleet still has some time to go to the Eastern Continent. The Heavenly Crystal does not need to immediately board the ship. The most important thing is to stabilize the current advantageous situation. Jing Dongxing had already agreed with Jing Dongjue's opinion, but there was no need to make a decision immediately. There was still plenty of time. At this moment, the people of the Jing clan were complacent, but in the Tiandan pavilion opposite, Lin Yi was a little surprised. His divine sense could see the disciples of the famous medicine sect who were demonstrating on the street, so he had a sufficient understanding of the automatic alchemy furnace's performance. It's actually an automatic alchemy furnace. How did the Jing family get such a thing? Moreover, it's a furnace that can refine all the elixirs below yellow level 5. It's much stronger than the ones in the secular world. It seems that the people in the center are playing tricks. Lin Yi retracted his divine sense. At a glance, he saw the shadow of the center behind the incident. He didn't care about the crowd and the medicine sect. The automatic alchemy furnace sold by the medicine sect has a great impact on our Tiandan Pavilion's business. Today, we didn't even complete one order. Tian Chan said with a smile. She wasn't complaining. Anyway, Tiandan Pavilion didn't really rely on selling elixirs to make a living. A short period of depression was not a problem. Oh. Yellow level 5 and below elixirs. It's no big deal. The group of rats in the center don't dare to deal with me openly. They can only play this kind of trick. They think that they can attack Tiandan Pavilion through the medicine sect. They really underestimate us. Don't they understand that any profound level 1 or 2 elixirs is enough for Tiandan Pavilion to eat for a year or two? Lin Yi smiled faintly. A truly high-end elixir could really sustain Tiandan Pavilion for a year or two, or even 10 or 20 years. Therefore, the automatic alchemy furnace of yellow level 5 was really not a threat. You're right. We can take the opportunity to end those low-end elixir business. In the future, we'll focus on the high-quality route. You have to work hard to refine elixirs. Don't be lazy. Tian Chan gave Lin Yi a big smile, but no matter how you looked at it, it looked like the expression of a landlady looking at a long-term worker. Lin Yi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Shouldn't you work hard and quickly be promoted to a profound level alchemist? With you here, why should I work so hard? If you dare to be lazy, I'll kick you. Tian Chan giggled, revealing her white canine teeth. Shweli covered her mouth and snickered. She had a gentle personality and rarely interfered. Most of the time, she listened on the side. Since Lin Yi and Tian Chan didn't care much about the automatic alchemy furnace, she didn't need to worry about it. Lin Yi chatted with the two girls for a while, then turned to look at Han Jingjing. He couldn't help but sigh. It's a pity that Jingjing didn't come back. If she was here, the 5th level automatic alchemy furnace wouldn't be worth mentioning at all. She could make even more advanced ones and suppress the medicine sect in an instant. Unlike now, we can only watch helplessly. It's really because we don't know anything about the technology to make this thing. Didn't I just say that it's not a big deal? Why would Jingjing need to do anything? You don't know how to care for Jingjing at all. When she comes back, see if I don't complain about you. Tian Chan's expression was slightly stagnant, then she changed the topic in a joking manner. Lin Yi knew that she didn't want him to continue to be sad about Han Jingjing, so he smiled slightly and shrugged, pretending to be relaxed. Jingjing is very gentle. It's useless even if you complain. Do you mean that I'm very fierce? Believe it or not, I'll kick you. Tian Chan snorted and finally succeeded in changing the topic. Han Jingjing, who Lin Yi and the others were talking about, was still moving in the wormhole at this time. Because she was wandering around consciously before, after turning back into a particle cluster, her speed became quite slow. However, this slow was relative to other particle clusters. In fact, this speed was already very fast in the outside world. However, the wormhole space was different from the outside world. The distance and time inside were very vague. Han Jingjing didn't know how long she had been moving, nor did she know how far she had moved. In any case, the exit that she had been looking forward to did not appear soon. Until today, dozens of white light spots of various sizes finally appeared in front of the wormhole space. To be exact, there was a relatively large light spot and dozens of small light spots. Chapter 6093. If there was no accident, these white light spots should be the exit of the wormhole, but Han Jingjing did not expect there to be so many wormhole exits. The largest light spot was undoubtedly the wormhole position controlled by the center. As for the small ones, Han Jingjing guessed that they were small cracks scattered in the secular world. Usually, they would not have any impact on the outside world. They would only play a role under certain circumstances. For example, when Han Jingjing returned to the Heaven Stage Island from the villa, because she thought of the wormhole, she directly entered the wormhole space. This was undoubtedly her own will that played a major role, but it was undeniable that these small cracks scattered in various places in the secular world were also very important. Otherwise, no matter how much Han Jingjing thought of the wormhole, it would be impossible to enter it. After all, returning to the Heaven Stage Island was because of the connection between the spirit and the body, but Han Jingjing had no connection with the wormhole. It could only be said that there was such a small crack near the villa. I don't know if this is the secular world or the heavenly island. If it's the secular world, I can look for the gap near the villa. Han Jingjing was still in the form of a ball of particles, but it didn't stop her from thinking. After a while, Han Jingjing's particle cluster had already arrived in front of the light spots in the void. The largest one was now a stable circle with a diameter of about 2 meters. There were groups of particles constantly entering and exiting, proving that her previous guess was not wrong. This was the central control place. Other light spots, the big ones were like watermelons, and the small ones were slightly bigger than goose eggs. From the shape, none of them were regular, and they could not be compared with the largest exit at all. What's more, it was simply a crooked thin line that was between closing and opening at any time. The risk of entering and exiting from this crack was quite high. Han Jingjing's particle cluster stopped not far from this light spot. She did not rush to leave, but continued to observe the space behind the light spot. She originally thought that this should be the end, but now she found that it was not the case. After the light spot, there was still a boundless space extending out. It seemed that this wormhole could lead to other places. Through these white light spots, Han Jingjing's divine awareness had been able to determine that it was not the heaven stage island outside, but the secular world. Then the question was, where did the wormhole lead to after crossing the secular world? Could it be the primordial underworld that Big Brother Lin Yi mentioned? Han Jingjing was a little hesitant. She did not know if she should continue exploring. Perhaps she could find the location of the wormhole that even the center could not grasp. However, she did not know how long she had been delayed here. Big Brother Lin Yi must be very worried about her, right? After thinking about it again and again, Han Jingjing decided to go over and take a look at the situation before returning to the secular world. If it was only for a while, it shouldn't be a big deal, right? With that in mind, the particle cluster began to circle around this white spot of light and floated to the other side of the space. However, after moving forward for a short distance, an extremely dangerous feeling suddenly appeared. Han Jingjing did not hesitate at all and immediately controlled the particle cluster to retreat. Countless invisible spatial blades suddenly appeared in front of Han Jingjing. These spatial blades could annihilate all matter, including all the particles in the wormhole. If Han Jingjing had not seen the opportunity early and retreated in time, she was likely to have completely fallen under the attack of these spatial blades. Even so, there was still a small part of the particle cluster that could not escape and was twisted into nothingness by the spatial blades. Han Jingjing immediately felt a terrible pain that penetrated deep into her soul. Her consciousness almost collapsed. One had to know that these balls of particles were formed from her primordial spirit. Losing a small part of her primordial spirit was as painful as being attacked by Lin Yi's primordial spirit. Fortunately, she did not enter too far and immediately returned to the light spot area. Here, the feeling of danger completely disappeared. It seemed that the wormhole on the other side was not suitable for teleportation. No wonder there was no information left in the center's research data. However, it was impossible for the center's researchers to directly wander in the wormhole space like Han Jingjing, so they might not know about the dangerous wormhole here. There is no other way. I can only leave first and come back to study that unstable and dangerous wormhole later. I hope it will be valuable in the end. Han Jingjing sighed softly in her consciousness. Although the loss of the spirit was painful, she was still in the form of a particle cluster. The connection was far less close than when she was in the spirit form. So, after a while, she recovered. As for how serious the damage this time was, she could only wait until she returned to the spirit form to know. Hopefully, it would not affect her return to Heaven Stage Island. After carefully exploring those exits, the Han Jingjing controlled by the center would definitely not use them. Regardless of whether there was an existence that could threaten her outside, just the information that her spirit could appear in the wormhole was something that she absolutely could not let the people in the center know. So, after comparing, Han Jingjing chose a seemingly more stable exit. Although it was not the largest of the remaining exits, it was almost the size of a grapefruit. Under the observation of her divine sense, there should be no one outside and it would not cause chaos. The most important thing was that a stable exit had a higher safety factor. After experiencing the danger just now, Han Jingjing had become much more cautious. As for the cracks near the villa, Han Jingjing did not discover them. Perhaps she just happened to encounter an unstable crack at that time. This kind of thing was not impossible. She did not know whether she was lucky or unlucky. The particle cluster smoothly passed through the exit and reformed Han Jingjing's spirit. Only now did she realize how serious the consequences of that dangerous attempt were. The pain at the soul level still existed. Not to mention that, Han Jingjing found that the connection between her and her main body on Heaven Stage Island had become extremely weak, even somewhat faintly discernible. If the trace of connection between her and her main body was broken, she could only teleport through the wormhole if she wanted to return to Heaven Stage Island. Moreover, it could not be delayed for too long. Otherwise, her spirit and her main body would suffer irreversible damage. That was close. I thought it was just a small injury. I didn't expect it to be so serious. However, with such a weak connection now, it seems very difficult to directly return to Heaven Stage Island. Han Jingjing was secretly afraid. While strengthening the connection with her main body, she observed the surrounding environment. Chapter 6094. But now, Han Jingjing felt that the indistinct connection had completely bypassed her armor. It was similar to a normal projection of her primordial spirit. Although she did not know what was going on, the weak fetters that tugged at her primordial spirit made her feel at ease. At this time, Han Jingjing naturally did not know that this weak connection was the effect of the spirit-gathering branch that Lin Yi had painstakingly obtained. When her spirit was in the wormhole space, the spirit-gathering branch was indeed useless. After coming out, it immediately preserved the connection between Han Jingjing's main body and spirit, so that she had enough time to find a way to return to Heaven Island. Hey, the crack exit just now has disappeared. Han Jingjing could no longer see the slightest trace of the wormhole exit in her divine sense. She immediately turned around and muttered to herself in surprise. This kind of small exit was indeed not stable enough. Perhaps the location it appeared in every time was not fixed. Han Jingjing originally wanted to re-enter the wormhole from this exit to return to Heaven Island, but now it seemed that there was no hope. I understand, in the wormhole exit, the only stable one should be the one controlled by the center. The rest of the cracks all appear randomly in various places in the secular world, and the time and location will all change. It seems that it will be a little difficult to control the use of the wormhole through these cracks. Han Jingjing floated in the air with a look of realization. She did not care about the disappearance of the exit at all. Although her spirit was a little seriously injured and the weak connection between her and her main body was not enough for her to return to Heaven Island, Han Jingjing still devoted herself to the study of the wormhole. After a short while, Han Jingjing woke up from her analysis mode. She looked around in a daze and said, "What is this place? How do I go back?" When in the wormhole, Han Jingjing thought that she could directly return to Heaven Island as soon as she came out, so there was no need to observe the surrounding environment. It did not matter where she appeared anyway. Who would have thought that the accident just now would cause a problem in her connection with her main body? Now that the wormhole crack had disappeared, if she wanted to return to Heaven Island, she had to find a new wormhole crack, so where she was became important. In addition to entering the wormhole and leaving from the other end, there was another way, which was to find a way to repair her spirit and see if she could re-establish the connection between her and her main body. To do this, Han Jingjing felt that it would be easier to find a wormhole. This is a forest. As for the direction, that's not important. Let's first figure out what kind of forest this is. Han Jingjing muttered to herself. Her primordial spirit slowly flew up into the sky. Observing from above the forest would give her a clearer view. Unfortunately, although they could see it clearly, their location was still unclear. It would be great if they could bring along some positioning or communication devices. Han Jingjing had no choice but to pick a random direction and fly slowly. At the same time, she tried to enter the wormhole again using the method she used before. As it turned out, no matter how she thought about it, there was no way to enter the wormhole again. The last time was indeed a coincidence. A moving wormhole crack had appeared near the villa, but this time, she was out of luck. Hey, wait a minute. Is this my divine sense imprint? Han Jingjing suddenly stopped and turned to look in another direction. She felt a weak connection with her primordial spirit there. When she came to the secular world, Han Jingjing did use the method of divine sense imprint. However, with the strength of her divine sense, the distance she could sense was not too far. For example, after she met up with Lin Yi, she did not sense the two divine sense imprints again. Now that there was a sudden fluctuation, it meant that the two spirit hunters had entered Han Jingjing's sensing range. Did this mean that when she left the wormhole, she came to Europe again? Now that she had finally found a clue, Han Jingjing did not delay and immediately flew toward the location of the divine sense imprint. As long as she could find the two spirit hunters, she could at least determine their current location. Then, she could contact Kong Xiaobo and the rest and inform Heaven Island that she was safe. As she got closer, Han Jingjing's primordial spirit could sense the divine sense imprint more clearly. Moreover, the forest began to become sparser, and she was almost at the edge. Soon, Han Jingjing found the two spirit hunters, Black Robe and Hunting Bow. They were fighting with two evil spirits at the moment, and from the looks of it, they were at a complete disadvantage. Hunting Bow's arrows were quite threatening, but the evil spirits were extremely fast and could easily dodge most of the arrows. Black Robe's leg injury seemed to have not healed yet, and his advance and retreat were somewhat affected, which was why he was suppressed by the evil spirits. The spirit hunter's recovery ability is really bad. Since they are so weak, why didn't they heal before coming out? Han Jingjing shook her head and instantly rushed over. In any case, they were acquaintances, and Han Jingjing was still hoping to get some information from them. Of course, she could not just watch the two of them get injured, so she acted very quickly. Although Han Jingjing's primordial spirit had suffered a certain amount of damage, dealing with two European evil spirits was really not a big deal. Before Black Robe and Hunting Bow could react, Han Jingjing had already defeated the two evil spirits in one fell swoop. The elixir fire of consciousness was used to deal with these things, and it was not inferior to lightning. Although Han Jingjing had only mastered a little bit of the elixir fire of consciousness, the two evil spirits did not have the slightest bit of resistance. After two shrieks, they were burned into nothingness. Don't waste your soul power, the soul power of these two evil spirits is very precious. Black Robe shouted. He did not have the time to thank Han Jingjing, and quickly took out a soul-gathering bottle and began to collect the soul power of the evil spirits that were scattered in the air. Han Jingjing's eyes lit up. She did not expect this fellow to have a soul-gathering bottle. She thought that after snatching their bottles previously, they would not have anything to eat, but it seemed like she had worried too much. The pure soul power in the soul-gathering bottle might be of some help to repair her primordial spirit. If she could collect enough soul power, she might be able to reconstruct the connection between her and her body. Hunting Bow greets my lord, thank you for your help. Hunting Bow had already recognized Han Jingjing. After putting away his bow and arrows, he quickly ran over and bowed respectfully to her. Only then did Black Robe remember that in front of him was an existence that he could not afford to offend, and quickly thanked her, but the soul-gathering bottle did not stop working. This is my spare soul-gathering bottle, you won't take it away again, right? Black Robe suddenly regretted taking out the soul-gathering bottle. The soul power of the evil spirits was precious, but if Han Jingjing took the soul-gathering bottle, he would probably vomit blood. Chapter 6095. Han Jingjing waved her hand and said, the soul-collecting bottle is fine, but I need soul power. Do you have any channels to buy soul power? The money in the secular world was meaningless to Han Jingjing. Whether it was the Miracle Dr. Guan Medical Group or the Liu family, they could provide a large sum of money. It would be best if she could buy soul power to restore her spirit. Black Shirt and Hunting Bow looked at each other. They didn't expect Han Jingjing to ask such a question. But it wasn't strange. After all, Han Jingjing was just a spirit body in their eyes. It was just that she was very powerful. It was normal for her to need soul power. Unfortunately, it wasn't easy to buy soul power. My lady, we spirit hunters are mainly responsible for collecting soul power in exchange for rewards. However, if we want to purchase it, it's not that easy. Although we can contact others in the same line of work, we don't have many people in this line of work. Hunting Bao carefully explained. She didn't want Han Jingjing to have any misunderstandings. From the previous situation, she could tell that this powerful soul was relatively kind-hearted. If they could maintain a good relationship, it would be beneficial for them. Black Shirt kept the soul-collecting bottle. He had collected the soul power of the two evil spirits. The soul-collecting bottle was about half full. It was a good harvest. If you need soul power, you can take these as a thank you gift for saving us. A noble spirit hunter will not be ungrateful. Hei Yi handed the soul collection bottle to Han Jingjing. Although it was a little painful, as he said, he was still very willing to repay Han Jingjing's kindness. Thank you. I won't stand on ceremony. Han Jingjing accepted the soul-gathering bottle and opened it. She raised her head and drank all the soul power inside. A warm feeling instantly flowed through her primordial spirit. The pain that had yet to dissipate was immediately reduced by half. Her injuries also began to improve. Although he still couldn't re-establish contact with his main body, the indistinct feeling became slightly clearer. It seemed that this soul power was indeed effective. As long as he collected more, he might be able to recover his primordial spirit and return to Heaven Step Island in no time. Since you don't have a channel to buy soul power, do you know where I can quickly collect soul power? Han Jingjing returned the soul-collecting bottle to Black Shirt and asked longingly. It was a pity that Lin Yi had kept the soul power gathering device that he had made in the villa. Otherwise, it would have been easier for him to gather soul power. Hunting Bao's beautiful eyes lit up and a sweet smile appeared on her face. If Han Jingjing was not a girl, she might have been attracted to her. If you want to quickly gather soul power, there is a place nearby called Evil Spirit Town. There are at least dozens of evil spirits gathered there. If you kill all of them, you can fill 10 soul-gathering bottles. I just don't know how strong you are. Can you deal with so many evil spirits? Hunting Bao's plan was to let Han Jingjing deal with the evil spirits. It had to be known that she and Black Shirt did not dare to go near Evil Spirit Town because there were too many of them and they could not deal with them. However, Han Jingjing was different. She was a powerful soul body, and she had a magical flame that specialized in restraining evil spirits. She might even be able to flatten Evil Spirit Town. It was a pity that Hunting Bao and Black Shirt only had 2 soul-gathering bottles. Even if they killed all the evil spirits in Evil Spirit Town, they would not be able to take away too much soul power. It was just right for Han Jingjing to absorb. Other than the soul power, Evil Spirit Town had been occupied by evil spirits for a long time. Therefore, there was a high chance that there would be some equipment that could be used by spirit hunters. Hunting Bao thought that it would not matter even if he gave all the soul power to Han Jingjing. Evil Spirit Town. That sounds scary. Then what are we waiting for? Let's go. Han Jingjing smiled faintly. In order to return to Big Brother Lin Yi's side as soon as possible, a few evil spirits were nothing. We're going to Evil Spirit Town. Haha. I've been wanting to go there for a long time. Black Shirt looked excited. Do you have a phone? Let me use it. Han Jingjing did not forget to contact Kong Xiaobo and the rest. Although she did not know how long she had been in the wormhole, Big Brother Lin Yi must be very worried. It was more important to let him know that she was safe. Hunting Bao took out a satellite phone and passed it to Han Jingjing. As an excellent spirit hunter, he would always prepare this kind of equipment. Han Jingjing dialed the villa's number, and it was picked up after 2 rings. It should be Wu Chintian. Sis-in-law Jingjing. Where have you been? Boss is worried sick on Sky Class Island. We've been looking for you everywhere, but we can't find you. Tell me where you are, I'll come get you right away. Chintian was excited when he heard Han Jingjing's voice. He finally found her. Wu Chintian. Don't look for me, I have some things to do. I'll go straight to Sky Class Island after I'm done. Send a letter to Lin Ebro, tell him I'm fine, that I'll be back in a couple of days. Don't worry about me. Han Jingjing didn't say much else, leaving only a few simple instructions before hanging up. Knowing that Han Jingjing was fine, Chintian breathed a sigh of relief. He did not pursue the matter and instead went to notify the others, writing a letter to Lin Yi. After the center signed the agreement, the wormhole was open to Lin Yi's people. Although the letters weren't as effective as before, it was much better than not being able to contact each other. After Han Jingjing hung up, she followed Black Clothes and Hunting Bao to Evil Spirit Town. Based on her estimation, she would be able to recover from her injuries with another 3 to 4 bottles of soul power. As for whether she could re-establish her connection with her main body, she could not be sure yet. She could only say that there was a high chance of that happening. It was a pity that Han Jingjing realized that soul power could be used to heal the soul, but using it to strengthen the soul would cause problems. It was like the side effect of Lin Yi's soul devouring. Getting stronger would cause the soul to become chaotic, and it was a waste of time. If not for the Soul Collection bottle's ability to filter and purify soul power, Han Jingjing would not even have the thought of using soul power to heal herself. The soul power that dissipated in the air was no different from poison to an ordinary primordial spirit. Only those evil cultivators would directly consume this kind of soul power. From this aspect, the soul gathering bottle was a magical item. At least, Han Jingjing had never heard of it before. Although the soul-gathering bottle was a good item, Han Jingjing did not want to take it again because she had taken Hei Yi and Hunting Bao's bottles before. On Sky Class Island, Lin Yi had not received a message from Chintian about Han Jingjing, so he was still worried. Chapter 6096. However, the Central Chamber of Commerce was not smooth sailing. After Wei Juding was thrown out of the Central Chamber of Commerce by Kong Ming, he successfully provoked the relationship between the Hong's Chamber of Commerce and the Central Chamber of Commerce, and the two directly entered into a full-scale business war. Under such circumstances, no one cared about Hong Zhong's matter at all, and finally, it was left unsettled. Brother Lin, today I'm here to say goodbye to you. I can't intervene in the affairs of Zhongdao, so I'd better go back to the North Island to stabilize the situation as soon as possible, lest the Central Chamber of Commerce of North Island shake my foundation. Hong Zhong had to go back to the North Island immediately, so he specially came to Tiandan Pavilion to see Lin Yi. Brother Hong, it's better for you to go back to the North Island first. You don't have to worry about the clowns in Zhongdao, and the things here really have little to do with you. Try not to get involved if you can. After a while, I'll go back to the North Island, and then we'll have a good talk. Lin Yi smiled slightly. He had expected that Wei Juding couldn't shake Hong Zhong's position, and now it was true. He just didn't expect that the Hong's Chamber of Commerce and the Central Chamber of Commerce would have such a big fight. With one more enemy in the Central Chamber of Commerce, Lin Yi had one more ally, not to mention that the Hong's Chamber of Commerce had a close relationship with him. But this time, the conflict between the Hong's Chamber of Commerce and the Central Chamber of Commerce was provoked by Wei Juding, and no one from the Hong's Chamber of Commerce came to inform Lin Yi, the honorary vice president. So for the time being, he was not interested in intervening in it. He would let them fight each other for a while. Hong Zhong was different. As a member of the Hong family, whether he could intervene in the affairs of Zhongdao or not, he would worry about the Hong's Chamber of Commerce. But now, the only thing he could do was to stabilize the situation of the Hong's branch and the Central Chamber of Commerce after returning to the North Island. Lin Yi couldn't go back with Hong Zhong for the time being, but the Hong's Chamber of Commerce in the North Island was different from that in Zhongdao. He wouldn't watch Hong Zhong get into trouble. Brother Hong, after you go back to the North Island, if you need help, you can ask my friends for help. Maybe they can't help you, but they can help you with some small things. Lin Yi's connections in the North Island were much deeper than those in Zhongdao, and his reputation was also useful. If Hong Zhong was in trouble, he could really borrow a lot of help. Well, if I need it, I won't stand on ceremony with you. Your name is much more useful than the Hong's Chamber of Commerce. Hong Zhong laughed heartily, and his worries dissipated a lot. In the North Island, it was not easy for the Central Chamber of Commerce to suppress the Hong's Chamber of Commerce. With Lin Yi's face, Hong Zhong had long been in an invincible position. In fact, if Lin Yi was willing to intervene in the affairs of Middle Island, the Hong's Chamber of Commerce would also have an absolute advantage. Unfortunately, Wei Jiating and his men would never come to Lin Yi, and Hong Zhong could not ask Lin Yi for help himself. After chatting for a while, they agreed to meet again in the North Island, and then Hong Zhong left. This time, he didn't take the ancient battleship of Okuda Dam. Instead, he directly rode the flying spirit beast back to the North Island. After sending Hong Zhong away, Lin Yi accidentally scanned around with his divine senses. It was just an unintentional action, but he accidentally found that Wei Xinjin and Shang Yuhua were surrounded by a group of people on the beach. There were 8 people in the group, most of whom were cultivators of the nascent soul stage, 2 of whom were masters of the mysterious ascension stage, and 1 of whom was at the early stage of the mountain opening stage. This kind of strength was absolutely powerful in Zhongdao, but Lin Yi didn't know any of them. How dare they surround people of the Universal Chamber of Commerce and the Snow Sword School in Zhongdao? Are these guys from the ancient families? Lin Yi's face turned cold. Wei Xinjin was his younger brother. Even if they were from the ancient families, they couldn't easily touch his people. Tian Chan, Sydney, I'm going out for a while. Lin Yi turned his head and said casually to the 2 women in the door. His figure flashed, and he had already left the Tiandan pavilion. Wei Xinjin and Shang Yuhua were not in any life-threatening danger. Although the group of people surrounded them, Shang Yuhua was unharmed, and Wei Xinjin was only slightly injured. Lin Yi didn't know whether they didn't mean to kill Wei Xinjin, or whether they were playing tricks on him. Anyway, he directly used the Thunder Escape skill. In the flash of lightning, he appeared on the beach in just a breath. Boss! When Wei Xinjin saw the lightning, he knew that it was Lin Yi, but his face showed a look of shame or anger. What's going on? Lin Yi appeared beside Wei Xinjin, glanced at the 8 people coldly, and asked faintly. Boss Lin Yi. Shang Yuhua was obviously relieved, and quickly came up to greet him, and at the same time, explained, I'm sorry, this is all because of me. These people are from the East Continent's Yellow Sea region, Hongwu Academy. That is their leader, the son of the deputy principal of Hongwu Academy, Zhu Dadi. Lin Yi looked at the direction where Shang Yuhua pointed. The guy called Zhu Dadi was quite good-looking, dressed in brocade clothes, and looked very imposing. At this moment, he was looking at them with a face full of arrogance. The only old man in the early stage of mountain opening was standing beside this kid, staring at Lin Yi with a dignified expression. Among these people, the only one who could see how scary Lin Yi was probably the old man in the early stage of mountain opening. The rest of the people, including the 2 mysterious ascending stage cultivators, had their backs to the direction where Lin Yi came from, so they didn't notice how he appeared at all. Boss, that guy called Zhu Dadi wanted to force the Universal Chamber of Commerce to marry Yuhua to him, because Yuhua didn't agree, so she directly followed us here. Wei Shinjin was ashamed because he felt that he couldn't protect his beloved, but after Lin Yi appeared, he couldn't suppress his anger anymore. Any man with courage wouldn't tolerate someone trying to snatch his woman. Even if he knew that he couldn't win, he would never retreat. Because of this, Wei Shinjin didn't ask for help from Lin Yi immediately. He had to step forward bravely. Lin Yi took out a recover pill and gave it to Wei Shinjin. Although his injury wasn't serious, it wouldn't be wrong to treat it. Wei Shinjin didn't refuse, and took the pill and swallowed it. Hongwu College. I've never heard of it. Why do all kinds of trash dare to come to the Central Island to show off? Do you really think that you're better than others just because you're from the East Continent? Lin Yi turned to look at Zhu Dadi and sneered indifferently. Zhu Dadi didn't get angry. Instead, he smiled and nodded calmly. Country bumpkin, it's normal that you don't know the colleges in the East Continent. Did you hear that trash call you boss? Listen to this young master's advice. You country bumpkins have no qualifications to fight with this young master for a woman. Take advantage of this young master's good mood and get lost. Otherwise, I can't guarantee that you'll be able to return alive. Chapter 6097. You really don't know what's good for you. I'm kind enough to give you a chance to live, but you don't know how to cherish it. You guys, go and teach this kid a lesson. Zhu Dadi waved his hand and signaled the two profound ascending stage cultivators to lead the rest of the nascent soul stage cultivators. In Zhu Dadi's view, such a lineup was very important to Lin Yi, but he didn't notice that the old man beside him had a slight change in expression. He opened his mouth and wanted to say something but stopped. Oh, so many people, do you want to scare me to death? Lin Yi had a faint sneer on the corner of his mouth. He tapped his feet and used the butterfly's subtle steps. To deal with these small people, he didn't need to use any offensive martial arts at all. Simple straight punches, hooks, and so on, combined with the butterfly's subtle steps, were enough to suppress the 6 people. In just a breath's time, the 6 cultivators, including the 2 profound ascending stage cultivators, were all knocked to the ground without exception. Fortunately, Wei Shinjin didn't suffer any serious injuries. Otherwise, these 6 guys wouldn't just be knocked unconscious on the ground. If Lin Yi really wanted to kill them, he would definitely not be lenient. Zhu Dadi was suddenly stunned. It was just a blink of an eye. How did these 6 masters all fall to the ground? What about ganging up on the country bumpkins? The old man beside him instantly moved in front of him. After blocking Lin Yi, he solemnly cupped his fists and said, "Little friend, there is some misunderstanding in this matter, please stop fighting." Lin Yi clapped his hands. He didn't want to continue fighting, but since the old man was quite sensible, he might as well listen to what he had to say first. After all, the ins and outs of this matter were not completely clear. It was necessary to stand up for Wei Shinjin, but it would be better if he could also be reasonable. Say what you want to say, my time is limited. Lin Yi calmly looked at the old man. As for Zhu Dadi, he didn't need to pay attention to him for the time being. Actually, this time we are here on behalf of Hongwu University to establish a cooperation agreement with the Universal Chamber of Commerce of Middle Island. Young Master Zhu really fell in love with Miss Shang at first sight, so he casually mentioned it. I didn't expect that the people of Universal Chamber of Commerce would immediately propose a marriage between Miss Shang and our young master. They were the ones who suggested it first, and we just agreed to it. The early mountain opening stage elder first removed himself from this matter. The strength that Lin Yi had shown had already made him deeply afraid. As the saying goes, a powerful dragon cannot suppress a snake in its territory. Moreover, Lin Yi was Lin Yi the local dragon. Lin Yi to say, to Lin Yi. Nonsense. It was obviously you who colluded with the president first to force my father to agree to the marriage. I have already clearly told you that I already have a fiancé, and I will definitely not marry Hongwu University. Shang Yuhua immediately stood up and retorted loudly. When Wei Shenjin heard the words, fiancé, he was so excited that his face turned red. He didn't realize that this wasn't a happy occasion. After Shang Yuhua finished speaking, she felt a little shy. She and Wei Shenjin hadn't known each other for a long time, and she had never mentioned the words fiancé or fiancé before. It really took a lot of courage for her to say it so recklessly today. At this moment, Wei Shenjin wasn't stupid. He immediately stood up and held Shang Yuhua's hand. He seized the opportunity and said, "This is Wei Shenjin's fiancé. If you want to use force to threaten her, even if I die, you can forget about succeeding." Lin Yi couldn't help but roll his eyes. He felt that the two of them wanted to act out a melodramatic love drama. Not only were their words mushy, but the way they were looking at each other with deep affection was also enough to give people goosebumps. I already understand this matter. You want to forcefully marry someone else's fiancé by relying on the fact that you are from some *T college in the East Continent. Do you really think that Middle Island is a place where you can do whatever you want? Lin Yi took over the conversation to prevent Wei Shenjin and Shang Yuhua from saying mushy words of love. In any case, he had to get rid of these people first. The elder in the early stage of the mountain opening stage couldn't see through Lin Yi's strength, so he spoke very politely. However, after Zhu Dadi got over the shock, he regained his initial arrogance because he had an expert in the early stage of the mountain opening stage by his side. Middle Island isn't a place where we can do whatever we want. Do you think you can do whatever you want? I don't know who you are, but this marriage is one of the foundations of the cooperation between the Hong Martial Arts College and the Universal Chamber of Commerce. The Universal Chamber of Commerce took the initiative to agree to our conditions, so I am this woman's legal fiancé. Control your little brother, or else I will let him know the consequences of offending the East Continent's Hong Martial Arts College. Zhu Dadi sneered. Although his words were still tough, he didn't have the calmness from before. Lin Yi couldn't be bothered to talk nonsense with these two guys. It seemed that if he wanted to completely solve this matter, he had to make a trip to the Universal Chamber of Commerce. Just as he was thinking about going to the Universal Chamber of Commerce, Lin Yi's divine sense discovered that Shang Wani and 3 people were flying towards him. Looking at their clothes, they should also be the higher-ups of the Universal Chamber of Commerce. Perhaps they received the news that Zhu Dadi had besieged Wei Shenjin and Shang Yuhua, so they hurried over to mediate. This saved Lin Yi from making another trip to the Universal Chamber of Commerce. Actually, what Lin Yi didn't understand was what was wrong with the higher-ups of the Universal Chamber of Commerce. They actually chose to offend him, a mystic level 2 alchemist, and then befriended the son of the vice dean of the East Continent's Yellow Steppe Sea region. With Lin Yi's identity, even if he went to the East Continent's Mystic Steppe Sea region, he would still be the target of all parties. What was a mere Yellow Steppe Academy's vice dean's son? Zhu Dadi saw that Lin Yi didn't speak, and thought that his aura had suppressed Lin Yi. He was secretly pleased, and his mouth was even more unforgiving. Useless nonsense. Shut up. Don't you know that you're very annoying? Lin Yi frowned slightly, and scolded him without any trace of politeness. He didn't want to talk to this kid because he found it troublesome, but this kid was getting worked up, buzzing like a fly. Even Lin Yi found it unbearable. Zhu Dadi was slightly stunned. Although Lin Yi's voice wasn't loud, the sudden shout really made this kid a little flustered. Fortunately, the people from the Universal Chamber of Commerce were already flying towards them. There was no need for divine sense, just the naked eye could see them clearly. It's my father, the executive vice president of the Universal Chamber of Commerce, Ping Jinshan, and 2 elders. Shang Yuhua's eyesight was very good, and she had already whispered to Lin Yi the identity of the people who came. Let's wait for them to come over first. Lin Yi nodded slightly, and expressed his gratitude to Shang Yuhua. Chapter 6098. In a moment, Shang Wani and the 3 senior executives of the Universal Chamber of Commerce landed in front of everyone. Seeing Lin Yi, Shang Wani was relieved. He cupped his hands with a big smile and said, "It's great that Master Lin is here. I'm really sorry to bother you to come here to deal with my daughter's trivial matters." Not to mention that Lin Yi had saved his life, Shang Wani had to be extremely respectful to Lin Yi because of what Lin Yi had done on the far north island. They were already familiar with each other when they were on the ancient battleship. However, Lin Yi's status had risen so fast that Shang Wani had to be more careful when talking to him. In fact, after returning to the Middle Island, Shang Wani hadn't had time to report what had happened on the far north island before he encountered Yuhua's forced marriage. Therefore, the Universal Chamber of Commerce didn't notice the change of Lin Yi's identity at all. Because of this, they didn't care even though they knew that Wei Xinjin was Lin Yi's follower. Lin Yi smiled at Shang Wani and cupped his hands to greet him. As for the other 3 senior executives of the Universal Chamber of Commerce, they didn't care about them at all. They all surrounded Zhu Dadi and asked about his well-being. Master Lin, Yuhua's marriage is between the Universal Chamber of Commerce and the Hongwu College. It has nothing to do with the Tiandan Pavilion, so please don't intervene. Ping Jianshan turned his head and cupped his hands to Lin Yi casually. Although he didn't know what had happened to Lin Yi on the far north island, Lin Yi's status was not low even in the middle island. Therefore, he spoke politely. Vice President Ping, Yuhua is my daughter. What does her marriage have to do with the Chamber of Commerce? If I don't agree to this, no one can control Yuhua's life. Shang Wani was infuriated. He could not help but refute Ping Jianshan loudly. After returning to Middle Island, he felt extremely aggrieved. Seeing that Lin Yi was here, Shang Wani felt relieved. He knew that his daughter wouldn't be forced to marry in the eastern continent. Ping Jianshan sneered and said, "Vice President Shang, watch your words. As the Vice President of the Chamber of Commerce, shouldn't you put the interests of the Chamber of Commerce first? What's more, young Master Zhu has a dignified appearance and outstanding talent. Don't tell me it's a disgrace for you to be paired with your lass. That's the famous Hongwu Academy in the Dongzhou continent. If Yuhua marries there, her future achievements will be much higher than if she stays in Zhongdao. Why can't you understand this?" Lin Yi smiled faintly. He waved his hand to stop Shang Wani and his daughter from arguing. He looked at Ping Jianshan and said with slight mockery, "Vice President Ping, right? Since you said it so well, why don't you marry your daughter to this young Master Zhu? If you don't have a daughter, a niece or niece will do. If not, your elder sister will do. I believe young Master Zhu won't mind." Zhu Dadi's face turned pale. He had never been humiliated like this before. If it wasn't for the mountain opening initial stage old man stopping him, he might have taken action against Lin Yi. Ping Jianshan's eyes turned cold. He was the executive vice president of the Universal Chamber of Commerce. In terms of status, he was above the deputy island master like the will of heaven. He was only slightly inferior to Okuda Prefecture. How could a mere pavilion master of Tiandan Pavilion be so arrogant in front of him? It was a pity that he didn't have the chance to listen to Shang Wani's report on the extreme North Island. Otherwise, he would know that his position as the executive vice president of the Universal Chamber of Commerce was really worthless in front of Lin Yi. Vice President Shang, I don't want outsiders to interfere with the internal affairs of our Chamber of Commerce. I'll ask you one last time. Do you agree to the marriage with Hongwu Academy? This will be one of the Chamber of Commerce's judgments on whether you are qualified to be the vice president. Ping Jianchen was unhappy with Lin Yi, but he didn't choose to confront him head-on. Instead, he avoided the important point and dwelled on the trivial point, directly threatening Shang Wanyi. As the executive vice president, it wasn't a problem for him to bully an ordinary vice president. As long as Shang Wanyi wasn't stupid, he should know how to choose. Shang Wanyi was so angry that he laughed. He tore off his Universal Chamber of Commerce robe and threw it on the ground. He pointed at Ping Jianchen and scolded, "Ping Jianchen. Do you really think that you're something? Are you blind? Do you think I'll sell my own daughter for such a bullsh*t position as a vice president? Let me tell you, I don't care about this bullsh*t vice president position at all. Master Lin is right. If you want to sell, you can sell your family members. Don't King think about my daughter." Not only was Ping Jianchen dumbfounded by this scolding, but the other two Universal Chamber of Commerce elders were also stunned. All along, Shang Wanyi had been a very smooth and qualified businessman. They didn't expect his sudden outburst to be quite frightening. However, this wasn't important. What was important was that a vice president could quit just like that. This was also a big shock to the Universal Chamber of Commerce. Even if Ping Jianchen could suppress it, he definitely wouldn't be able to eliminate the negative impact. Well said. What is a mere Universal Chamber of Commerce? With Brother Shang's talent, you will be a talent that everyone will fight for wherever you go. It just so happens that I'm preparing to establish a Chamber of Commerce. If Brother Shang is willing to condescend, please help me and carry this burden. Lin Yi smiled slightly and began to poach people in front of Ping Jianchen. He did have the idea of establishing a Chamber of Commerce, mainly because of the automatic alchemy furnace of the medicine sect. However, he hadn't considered the specific matters yet. It just so happened that Shang Wanyi was preparing to leave the Universal Chamber of Commerce. Lin Yi immediately linked the two together and felt that this was really a good thing. In fact, from Wei Shenjin's perspective, as the boss, Lin Yi should be considered as Shang Wanyi's junior. However, Shang Wanyi probably didn't dare to let him be a junior, so calling him Brother Shang was already very polite. Shang Wanyi was slightly stunned. He didn't know if Lin Yi just wanted to help him on a whim, or if he really wanted to establish a Chamber of Commerce. In any case, this was a very good opportunity. With Lin Yi, a Mystic Stage second-level alchemist, plus the fact that Nakajima's manager had a good relationship with Tiandan Pavilion, if he really wanted to establish a Chamber of Commerce, his business would definitely surpass the Universal Chamber of Commerce. Shang Wanyi made a prompt decision and immediately nodded. Master Lin is willing to give me a chance. I will do my best to manage the Chamber of Commerce for you. And it won't take long for our Chamber of Commerce to surpass the Universal Chamber of Commerce. Shang Wanyi straightened his chest and said decisively. Chapter 6099. From today onwards, Brother Shang, you are the president of our Tiandan Pavilion Chamber of Commerce. Chamber of Commerce, let's go back and discuss the direction of our future development. As for those clowns, don't waste time on them. Lin Yi smiled and clasped his hands at Shang Wanyi. Then, he signaled Wei Shenjin and Shang Yuhua to prepare to go back. Zhu Dadi always prided himself on being calm. However, he suddenly became hot-headed. He couldn't help but rush towards Shang Yuhua with a ferocious look in his eyes. Bitch! I have given you face, but you don't know what's good for you. Today, I will let you know that I am not someone to be trifled with. Before Zhu Dadi finished his words, he had already attacked Shang Yuhua. The old man beside him turned pale with fright. He'd been too focused on Lin Yi just now and had overlooked this kid, allowing him to rush out of the way. Lin Yi didn't care about this idiot at all. With Wei Shenjin on the side, this kind of young master's strength was not enough to threaten Shang Yuhua. He only needed to ensure that the old man in the early stage of mountain opening stage would not interfere. Zhu Dadi's attack was considered fast. However, Wei Shenjin had been paying attention to this guy. How could he let this guy hurt his sweetheart? With a low shout, Wei Shenjin stood in front of Shang Yuhua. He raised his hand and threw a punch. The surrounding temperature instantly dropped. In the space where the punch passed, there were even small ice crystals. Zhu Dadi's expression changed slightly. Although he was in the original infant stage, his strength was mostly increased by the accumulation of medicinal pellets. In terms of talent, he was really not as good as the genius disciple of the Snow Sword faction, Wei Shenjin. Therefore, when he threw this punch, he had the intention to retreat. However, the cold air formed by Wei Shenjin's qi made him feel a little sluggish. In addition, he had rushed out too fiercely just now. For a moment, he couldn't retreat even if he wanted to. He could only fight it head-on. Their fists collided with each other. Zhu Dadi's strength was already at a disadvantage, and he had the thought of retreating and hesitating in his heart. The result of fighting head-on was that he would be defeated immediately. The old man who was protecting Zhu Dadi was ready to help his young master even before the two of them clashed. However, Lin Yi only moved his feet slightly, without any intention to help. That invisible pressure made the old man's hair stand on end, and he subconsciously focused all his attention on Lin Yi. In the next moment, the old man realized that he had once again neglected Zhu Dadi. In that split second of distraction, his young master had already been sent flying back with a scream. The arm that had punched Wei Shenjin was already covered with a thin layer of frost. How dare you! The old man was immediately shocked and angry. He could no longer care about Lin Yi. In a flash, he appeared behind Zhu Dadi. He deflected the impact of flying back and wiped away the cold air on his arm. At the same time, he put a recover pill into his mouth. After doing all of that in the blink of an eye, the old man did not stop. Instead, his figure flashed once again, appearing before Wei Shenjin. He raised his hand, wanting to slap Wei Shenjin's face and send him flying. This time, he didn't want to kill Wei Shenjin. After all, there was Lin Yi beside him. The old man didn't want to offend a local tyrant with unfathomable strength. If Zhu Dadi hadn't been injured and didn't get back at him, the old man, as his protector, would have lost face. When he went back, he would definitely be punished. He didn't want to slap Zhu Dadi. Unfortunately, this old man really didn't know Lin Yi at all. If he wanted to slap his younger brother in front of him, it was no different from slapping him. Lin Yi, who had always been protective of his people, would not hesitate to support Wei Shenjin even if it was Wei Shenjin who attacked first. Not to mention that it was just a legitimate defense. It was already polite of him not to kill Zhu Dadi. How dare he look for trouble later? With the full power of the extreme butterfly's subtle steps, Lin Yi left a trace of shadow where he was standing. His body had instantly appeared in the path of the old man. He also slapped, but before the old man could hit Wei Shenjin, Lin Yi had already slapped his face. The old man felt that he was already very guarded against Lin Yi, but he still didn't expect that Lin Yi's speed would be so terrifying. He almost didn't even have the chance to react. It was definitely too late to block. The old man could only rely on his instincts to move his head, making a slight dodging movement. Lin Yi's palm didn't completely hit him, but he didn't care. Just the sweep of 4 fingers was enough to send the old man flying. With a not-so-clear slap, the old man's forward direction suddenly changed by 90 degrees. His entire body flipped twice in the air before landing on the ground in a slightly sorry state. Zhu Dadi couldn't help but shiver. First, it was because the cold air hadn't completely disappeared, and second, it was because he was scared by Lin Yi's strength. The old man beside him was an expert in the early stage of the mountain opening realm, but he was actually directly sent flying by a slap from Lin Yi. What kind of strength did Lin Yi have? Ping Jinshan's heart also trembled. However, Hongwu College was an important partner of the Universal Chamber of Commerce in opening up the East Continent. He definitely couldn't sit back and watch these two people be bullied without saying a word. Lin Yi, don't go too far. This is an important guest from the East Continent. Even if the acting island owner of Okuda State was here, he wouldn't dare to offend him. Do you really want to stay in Middle Island? Ping Jinshan scolded him sternly. At the same time, he quickly blocked in front of Lin Yi, putting on a look of protecting Zhu Dadi and Lin Yi. Lin Yi smiled faintly, completely ignoring the subtle hint in Ping Jinshan's words. This guy thought that he still needed the protection of Okuda State to survive in Middle Island, so he deliberately pointed out that Okuda State was only an acting island owner. However, he didn't know that Lin Yi had already passed the stage of needing support. In fact, when Ping Jinshan saw the 6 unconscious East Continent people on the ground, he knew that Lin Yi was not easy to get along with. However, he was still confident that with him, the executive vice president of the Universal Chamber of Commerce, Lin Yi would restrain himself no matter what. He didn't expect that the truth was completely different. It's not up to you to decide whether I want to stay in Middle Island or not. If you insist on interfering, don't blame me for being rude. Lin Yi glanced at Ping Jinshan coldly. This guy didn't look like a good guy no matter how he looked at it. If he still didn't know what was good for him, it wouldn't matter if he taught him a lesson. Anyway, after Shang Wanyi followed Lin Yi, he already had a grudge against the Universal Chamber of Commerce. It was not a big deal to have another crime like teaching the executive vice president a lesson. Ping Jinshan was a little scared. However, under such circumstances, he absolutely couldn't back down, or else his cooperation with Hongwu College would end here. Chapter 6100. Originally, I wanted to let it go, but since you want to mess things up, I'll fulfill your wish. Lin Yi had a mocking expression. He lifted his leg and kicked. Ping Jinshan did not react at all. He only felt a sharp pain in his abdomen. Then, his entire body flew backwards. After Lin Yi kicked Ping Jinshan away, he used the Wood Forest 1000 transformations. He created hundreds of clones that surrounded Zhu Dadi and the mountain opening stage elder and started beating them up. Although the power of the Wood Forest 1000 transformations was not great, there were many of them. It was the best way to beat people up. Especially against people who were weaker than him, it was definitely satisfying. As for the other 2 elders of the Universal Chamber of Commerce, their strength had not reached the mountain opening stage yet. When they saw the power of the Wood Forest 1000 transformations, they wisely turned around and retreated. They pretended to check on Ping Jinshan's injuries and stayed far away from Lin Yi's attack range. Lin Yi did not care about the 2 of them. Their existence did not affect him at all. Now, he only needed to beat people up to his heart's content. Poor Zhu Dadi and the old man, who were at the early phase of the mountain opening, couldn't do anything against Lin Yi's clones. No matter how hard they tried to defend, they were still hit by punches and kicks from all directions. In just a breath's time, the 2 of them were swollen up. Actually, with the elder's strength, the Wood Forest 1000 transformations would not have much of an effect. However, when Lin Yi had just arrived, he had already felt a little guilty. After that, he was sent flying by Lin Yi, which made him even more fearful of Lin Yi. That was why he was completely suppressed by the Wood Forest 1000 transformations. His performance was not much better than Zhu Dadi, who was in the original infant stage. Fortunately, Lin Yi did not have the intention to kill, so Zhu Dadi and Lin Yi were able to keep their lives. The power of the Forest 1000 transformations was indeed not strong, but that was only relative. It might be difficult to kill a mountain opening stage cultivator, but against a nascent soul stage Zhu Dadi, a clone was enough to kill him instantly. Seeing that the two guys were almost swollen, Lin Yi waved his hand and dissipated all the doppelgangers. Then, he looked at the two guys on the ground whose faces were beyond recognition and said calmly, "Remember, the one who beat you up is Lin Yi of Tiandan Pavilion. If you have any grudges and want to take revenge, just come to me. I'll accept it at any time. Don't find the wrong person." After saying that, he glanced coldly at the three people from the Universal Chamber of Commerce not far away. His words were also meant for them to hear. He didn't want them to take revenge on the people around him. Zhu Dadi and the others could not even tell the difference between their eyes and nose, so they could not answer Lin Yi. As for Ping Jianchen, although he was angry, he knew that a wise man knew better than to fight when the odds were against him. He humphed and did not say anything. "Let's go." Lin Yi turned his head and said goodbye to Shang Wani, his daughter, and Wei Xinjin. Then, he left the place first. Next, he had to think about the establishment of the Tiandan Pavilion Chamber of Commerce. He had this idea before. Now that he had Shang Wani, Lin Yi certainly had to think about how to operate it seriously. Now, because of the impact of the automatic alchemy furnace of the medicine sect, there was basically no market for low-level elixirs in Tiandan Pavilion. High-level elixirs were expensive and limited, so they could not be sold as regular products. Therefore, it was quite necessary to transform. As for the goods after the establishment of the Chamber of Commerce, Lin Yi also had some ideas. In addition to his elixirs, the wormhole in the center could also be used. Since they could sell goods from the secular world, of course, Lin Yi could also sell them. Anyway, the wormhole was now shared by both sides, and the market was so big. Presumably, the center would not mind too much. As for the specific matters, he needed to go back and contact the secular world. Anyway, he had already mentioned this to Lai Changyi, Brother Dafeng, and the others. It would be more convenient to operate now. The only problem was Han Jingjing's whereabouts. If she could return in time, it would be perfect. After returning to Tiandan Pavilion, Tian Chan greeted him first. Her pretty face was full of joy, and she was holding a letter in her hand. "Lin Yi, this is the reply from the secular world. They have news about Jing Jing. Jing Jing is fine. She is still in the secular world. She said that she will be back in a few days." Tian Chan handed the letter in her hand to Lin Yi. She was also greatly relieved. Although Han Jingjing did not wake up immediately, this news was enough to make Lin Yi feel at ease. Lin Yi was overjoyed when he heard this. He quickly took the letter and opened it. He read it quickly. Sure enough, it mentioned that Han Jingjing took the initiative to contact the villa and asked them to inform Heavenly Island that she was safe. However, because she still had some things to do, she would only be back in a few days. Lin Yi didn't know when this letter had been sent. He thought that he had just received the letter, and Han Jingjing might wake up at any time. He didn't have time to settle Shang Wani and the others down. He only gave them a few simple instructions and told them to familiarize themselves with the Heavenly Dan Pavilion. He then went upstairs to visit Han Jingjing. Unfortunately, Han Jingjing was still in the secular world at this time and could not return to Heavenly Island immediately. That day, she in Black Cloak and Hunting Bow went to Evil Spirit Town and smoothly destroyed the many evil spirits entrenched there. With the strength of Han Jingjing's spirit and the assistance of the alchemic fire, it was a piece of cake to deal with these little things. Every time she destroyed an evil spirit, Han Jingjing would ingest and convert the energy of the soul she had gathered into it, repairing the injuries of her soul until she made a complete recovery. When she had destroyed all the evil spirits in the town, not only did her soul make a complete recovery, but her strength had also increased drastically. Unfortunately, this was only a one-time improvement. There was not much use in using soul power again. Instead, it made her feel that her spirit was somewhat impure, so she did not dare to continue using soul power to cultivate her spirit. Because of this, Black Cloak and Hunting Bow benefited greatly. Not only were the two soul-gathering bottles filled with soul force, but their strength had also increased under Han Jingjing's guidance. At the same time, they had also collected a few useful soul armaments from Spectre Town. For Black Cloak and Hunting Bow, this was definitely a bountiful harvest. If they sold 2 full bottles of soul power, they would be able to earn at least 10 to 20 million euros. As for the increase in strength and the items they obtained, it was something that couldn't be measured with money. Therefore, the two of them felt respect for Han Jingjing from the bottom of their hearts. They even had the thought of taking her as their master. Of course, Han Jingjing would not accept 2 foreign spirit hunters as her disciples. She did not have the time for that. After leaving Evil Spirit Town, Han Jingjing prepared to try to return to Heavenly Island. Chapter 6101. In fact, teleportation through the wormhole was also very fast. Last time, Han Jingjing wandered around in the wormhole and left the range of the teleportation channel. That was why her speed was a little slow. This time, as long as she focused on teleportation, she believed that she would be able to return to Heaven Island soon. The only problem now was where was the entrance to the wormhole. Finding the entrance to the wormhole in Europe was tantamount to looking for a needle in a haystack. Han Jingjing had no choice but to return to China first. Entering from the main entrance controlled by the center was the safest way. Han Jingjing did not need to use her spirit form to slowly cross the sea. She could hide on the plane and take a plane to return to China. When she reached a nearby city, it would be very simple. Because she said last time that she would return to Heaven Island directly, Han Jingjing did not intend to go to the villa this time. After being delayed in the secular world for so long, Lin Yi must be very worried about her, so she went directly to the wormhole entrance in the center. The spirit form was very convenient. It did not take much effort to sneak into a place without being discovered. Han Jingjing easily found the wormhole entrance and saw Big Brother Defong commanding people to teleport many secular goods to Heaven Island. It seems that Big Brother Lin Yi is going to give them a taste of their own medicine. He is using the secular world's products to compete with the Central Chamber of Commerce and break the other party's monopoly. Han Jingjing smiled gently. She felt that this method was indeed good. Unfortunately, the agreement with the center was only for a year. During this time, she had to find a way to thoroughly study the wormhole and find an independent tunnel to avoid relying too much on the center's wormhole in the future. Originally, Han Jingjing wanted to show up and say hello to Big Brother Defong, but there were many people around the wormhole. Although most of them were people she found, some were placed here by the center to monitor Big Brother Defong. To avoid unnecessary trouble, Han Jingjing suppressed the idea in her heart and took advantage of the gap to quietly enter the wormhole. As soon as she entered the wormhole, her spirit form broke down into particles and flew to the other end at high speed. It was more than 100 times faster than Han Jingjing's previous wandering speed. However, the moment she entered the tunnel, Han Jingjing realized that something was amiss. She was not the only one in the tunnel. The particle clusters of all the items moved quickly without interfering with each other, nor would they touch her particle cluster. However, there was one cluster of particles that was motionless in the tunnel and happened to block Han Jingjing's path. Han Jingjing could vaguely feel the fluctuations of her spirit from that cluster of particles. These fluctuations were very strong, but there was also a hint of weakness, which was a little strange. The particles of the items shuttled back and forth between the particles without any effect, but when Han Jingjing's essence soul particles approached, the motionless particles suddenly exploded, instantly entangling with Han Jingjing. The two spirit particles broke free from the wormhole's teleportation tunnel and floated in the wormhole space at the side. Then, Han Jingjing's spirit body appeared. Little girl, your spirit strength is not bad. You can actually encounter a great tonic here. Be obedient and let me fuse with you so that you won't suffer. Another head appeared on the shoulder of Han Jingjing's spirit body. It was Wang Ba, who had disappeared on Heaven Island because of the miniature teleportation array. Lin Yi had always thought that he'd been killed in the explosion, but who would have thought that this 10,000-year tortoise had such a tough life? He didn't die even after all that, and appeared in the wormhole. In fact, Wang Ba was also very puzzled about why he appeared here. However, he was already very lucky to be able to escape from Lin Yi. As for where he was, he did not care at all. It had been a while since he came to the wormhole space, but Wang Ba did not intend to leave immediately. That was because he had indeed suffered serious injuries when he was teleported by the miniature teleportation array. Under the premise that he did not know what was going on, he did not dare to simply run around. More importantly, Wang Ba found that after his spirit turned into the form of particles, he could actually slowly recover from his injuries. Although it would take at least 800 years for him to fully recover, it was still a way. Moreover, he could continue to exist without the Xianhai soul-condensing fluid, so he simply hid here to recuperate. If Han Jingjing had not suddenly teleported in the tunnel, Wang Ba might have slept for 1,000 years. It was because he had sensed the fluctuation of the spirit that he gave up recuperating and attacked Han Jingjing's spirit. If Wang Ba knew how to devour Lin Yi's spirit, Han Jingjing would have been swallowed by him. Fortunately, he did not have such a technique, so Han Jingjing had escaped. However, Wang Ba did not attack Han Jingjing without any confidence. He found that after he turned into particles, there was a high chance that he could integrate with the spirit in the same state, such as Han Jingjing. As long as the integration was successful, his injuries would be greatly healed. By then, he would not have to stay here anymore. He could go out and find a body to possess. Who are you? Get out of my way. Although Han Jingjing was shocked, she did not panic. She tried her best to maintain control of her spirit and tried her best to drive Wang Ba out. Hey, you're quite stubborn. Wang Ba was a little surprised. He initially thought that this attack would be a piece of cake. He did not expect the integration process to be as easy as he had imagined. The integration in the form of particles was only Wang Ba's own speculation. He had never put it into practice. In other words, Han Jingjing was the first test subject that Wang Ba used to practice, but he seemed to have fallen into a trap himself. In terms of the strength of the spirit, Wang Ba was infinitely close to the sea-splitting stage at his peak, but it declined a lot later on. Coupled with his previous injuries, it was good enough for him to maintain his strength at the peak of the mysterious ascension late stage. Although Han Jingjing had made some progress, the strength of her spirit was barely at the mysterious ascension stage. She could not be compared to Wang Ba at all. The reason for the current situation had to be found from the state of both parties. Wang Ba had not recovered from his serious injuries. Although his primordial spirit was strong, it was still very weak. On the other hand, Han Jingjing had accumulated a large amount of soul power. Although her primordial spirit was not pure, it was still extremely solid. Even if it had turned into a ball of particles, the connection between them was still extremely tight. Wang Ba had probably kicked an iron plate when he wanted to merge with Han Jingjing. That was indeed the case. Wang Ba seemed to have some advantage in the beginning, but Han Jingjing gradually took the initiative. When she used the alchemy fire of soul, Wang Ba screamed and hid completely, not daring to show his face. Chapter 6102. If she used the divine alchemic fire, she might burn her spirit because of the fusion problem. Han Jingjing was not sure what would happen to her if she did that. Little girl, I admit that I have underestimated you, but it doesn't matter. I don't lack patience. Let's wait and see. Wang Ba felt a little guilty in his heart, but he was very stubborn with his words. Although he seemed to be at a disadvantage now, Wang Ba believed that as long as Han Jingjing's spirit body turned back into a particle cluster, he would have a chance to continue fusing with her spirit. As time went by, Wang Ba's condition would get better, and the fusion speed would naturally get faster. Han Jingjing suddenly quietened down. This annoying bastard could not be separated for a while, so the only way was to stop him from continuing to fuse with her spirit, so she could only choose to maintain the spirit body state. It seemed that it was too late to return to Heaven Stage Island. If she went back like this, she might be possessed by this bastard. Han Jingjing thought for a while and turned around to fly back. She could not take such a risk, so she prepared to stay in the secular world for a while. The spirit body's movement speed in the wormhole space was even slower, but Han Jingjing had no choice. She would never turn back into a particle cluster. Fortunately, the previous teleportation was only for a moment. The spirit body spent more than 10 minutes and finally returned to the entrance. There were still so many cracks surrounding the most stable exit. This time, Han Jingjing had no other choice but to exit from the central exit. If she used her primordial spirit form to pass through the other cracks, it might cause a lot of unnecessary damage. If that bastard took the opportunity to attack, Han Jingjing would be in big trouble. Sister-in-law Jingjing. As soon as Han Jingjing's spirit body came out of the wormhole, she heard Big Brother Dofeng's exclamation. She could not help but smile bitterly. Fortunately, she went in quietly just now. Otherwise, it would be hard to explain why she went in and came out again. Big Brother Dofeng, does the wormhole belong to us today? Han Jingjing greeted him with a smile and casually made a meaningless remark. Yeah, why did you come out of the wormhole? Boss Lin Yi has been anxious these days. I heard that you were still here a while ago. Brother Dofeng couldn't help but ask in a low voice. He then remembered that this was not a place to talk, so he quickly looked around and bowed to Han Jingjing. Let's leave this place first. Do you think it's possible to go back to the villa? Alright, I'll head back to the villa first. Could you please send someone to send me back? Han Jingjing did not stand on ceremony. She still had to suppress Wang Ba in her primordial spirit, so she could not be distracted. Who are you going to send? I'll go back with you right away. Big Brother Feng didn't dare to delay. After whispering, he led Han Jingjing away from the place. Although the center had signed a truce agreement with Lin Yi, Han Jingjing's identity was too special. Lin Yi had returned to Heaven Island. Big Brother Dofeng did not dare to take the risk of letting her stay here. If something happened, the center could push the blame away. Soon, he took Han Jingjing to a helicopter and left through the air. Although the people in the center had received the news of Han Jingjing's appearance, they did not stop them. After returning to the villa, everyone was present because they had been notified by Big Brother Dofeng in advance. Everyone was overjoyed to see Han Jingjing. They were as anxious as Lin Yi was. Although they had received news that she was fine, it was better to see her with their own eyes. After Han Jingjing briefly greeted everyone, she did not say anything else. With the strength of her primordial spirit, it was still a little difficult to suppress Wang Ba for a long time, especially because of the fusion problem. She could not use the divine sense elixir fire to deal with him. The reason why Han Jingjing rushed to the villa was to make a call. Black Shirt and Hunting Bow's phone number. Before leaving Europe, Han Jingjing did not think of asking for their phone numbers because it was not necessary. The divine sense mark on them was not removed. If she wanted to find them, she could sense them as long as she strolled around their area of activity. However, in the current situation, Han Jingjing really could not be distracted by running around, so her only hope was that the number she used to call the villa last time was still there. Sun Jingyi looked strangely at Han Jingjing, who was rushing to the phone and flipping through the records. She asked softly, "Jingjing, what's wrong with you? Are you looking for someone?" "Yes, it's the number I called last time. It's a friend of mine in Europe. I have something to talk to him about." Han Jingjing turned her head and smiled, then turned back to rummage through the phone. Fortunately, there were not many records on the phone, so she quickly found the number. Han Jingjing quickly pressed the call back, but the call did not go through. "Why can't I get through? Do I really have to go to Europe personally?" Han Jingjing's little face showed some disappointment. Perhaps the two spirit hunters, Black Shirt and Hunting Bow, would have a way to solve the problem of the spirit. This was also her plan. Even though their strength was not worth mentioning, they did have a different approach in this regard. Europe and Huaxia were two completely different cultivation systems. At present, there was no one in the mortal world who was stronger than Han Jingjing in the aspect of primordial spirit. The only people she could ask for help were the two spirit hunters in black. "You want to find a friend in Europe? Who are they?" Sun Jingyi waited for Han Jingjing to put down the phone before asking curiously. Han Jingjing didn't go back to Sky Island, so what was she doing all this time? Was she always in Europe? Then why did she come out of the wormhole today? Everyone was curious about these questions, but seeing that Han Jingjing seemed to have something on her mind, they were too embarrassed to ask directly. "It's two spirit hunters. The soul collection bottle that was used to wake up Linny Big Bro came from them," Han Jingjing explained casually. She turned her head and took the laptop that Wu Qintian had placed on the coffee table, typing quickly on the keyboard. As a powerful hacker, it was not impossible to locate a phone based on a number. Since the call could not go through, Han Jingjing could only confirm Black Shirt's current location first. "Actually, if you want to find someone in Europe, you can call Kerman, Buffon. Buffon, it'll be easier to get him to help." Maybe Kerman knows people like spirit hunters, Jingyi thought for a moment before giving Han Jingjing an idea. Chapter 6103. Han Jingjing nodded, but her fingers didn't stop. "Alright, then I'll have to trouble Sister Jingyi to look for Kerman. I'll locate them first and ask his men to help me find them. Oh right, Brother Dauphin, help me call that number and see if it goes through." Sun Jingyi and Brother Dauphin agreed and started making calls. Although they didn't know why Han Jingjing was in such a hurry to find the two spirit hunters, since it was her request, no one had any objections or questions. Black Shirt and Hunting Bow still couldn't get through, but Kerman's call went through. Sun Jingyi said a few words and turned to ask Han Jingjing, "Jingjing, what's the name of your spirit hunter friend?" "A Caucasian man in black with a crossguard sword. He's called Black Shirt. There's also a beauty in leather who uses a bow and arrow. He's called Hunting Bow. Does that Kerman know about them?" Han Jingjing didn't stop her fingers as she raised her head to look at Jingyi. Sun Jingyi repeated Han Jingjing's words, listened for a few seconds, thanked her, and hung up. "Kerman said he doesn't know the two spirit hunters, but he can ask around and get back to us later. If you can locate them, he can also send people to look for them." As Sun Jingyi spoke, she looked at the screen of the laptop. It was a satellite map of Europe. As Han Jingjing typed in quickly, all kinds of lines and graphics flashed on the satellite map. "Alright, I'll be able to locate the general area soon." As soon as Han Jingjing finished speaking, a red dot appeared on the screen. At the same time, the surrounding area was magnified. It looked like a forest. "Are they at this location? I'll get Kerman to find someone to take a look." Sun Jingyi didn't know where they were, but she was doubtful that Kerman could find them. If they were in a city or town under the influence of the Buffon family, it would be very easy to find them. However, this forest was not only in a place where people rarely went, but it was also very far from Kerman's home. Even if they sent someone there, it would take a long time. This is where they were more than an hour ago. I'm not sure if they're still there. Han Jingjing said helplessly. Black Shirt and Black Shirt's cell phone signal could only be tracked to this extent. They had completely lost the signal an hour ago, so they couldn't get through no matter how hard they tried. From their last position, they weren't too far from Evil Spirit Town. Could it be that the two of them went back to Evil Spirit Town to explore after Han Jingjing left? That shouldn't be the case. The soul-gathering bottle in their hands was already filled with soul power. Before selling the soul power, there was no reason for them to continue with other missions. Sun Jingyi took out her phone and prepared to call Kerman. No matter how slim the chances were, she had to ask him to send someone to look for her. She just didn't know if Han Jingjing could afford to wait. Seeing how anxious she was, she probably couldn't wait that long. Kong Xiaobo went behind the sofa and looked at the notebook as well, scratching his chin with his fingers. This area. I think it's the place Chi-Chi mentioned before. Young Chi-Chi. Xiao-Chi. You've contacted her. Sun Jingyi and the others paused. The people in the villa weren't that familiar with Chi-Chi, but the people around Lin Yi all knew each other. Lin Yi came back to the common world this time to meet the people who stayed behind, but Chi-Chi couldn't be contacted. She was said to be on a mission, so it was quite a pity. Everyone in the villa knew about this, but they didn't mention Chi-Chi until they found her. Yeah, I got a call from her 2 days ago, but I didn't remember to tell everyone. She heard that boss came back, so she called. She was really excited and wanted to come back to look for boss, but he went back to Sky State Island already. Kong Xiaobo shook his head. It was quite a pity as well. If Chi-Chi had heard the news earlier, she wouldn't have missed the chance to meet boss. Let's not talk about useless stuff. Why did Chi-Chi bring up this area? Sun Jingyi raised a hand to stop Kong Xiaobo. Han Jingjing's focus was clearly on this area, and it was probably important to her. Chi-Chi told me that she was on a mission in this area, and she's been here for more than a year now. There's almost no signal in the depths of the forest, so she can't contact the outside world. She only found out that boss came back to look for her because she came out to resupply. Maybe it'll be faster if we ask her for help. Kong Xiaobo wasn't sure if this was a good idea or not, but he'd just have to try it out. What kind of mission is she on in a forest like this? And she's been gone for more than a year. Sun Jingyi was speechless. She knew that Chi-Chi was an unreliable assassin, but this was way too unreliable, wasn't it? Could it be that her target was hiding in the depths of the forest, and she had to go after him? Even if that was the case, she'd been gone for more than a year. Wouldn't that make her a savage? This girl's patience wasn't just for show. I'll call Xiao-Chi first. Lin Yi Bro really cares about her. I'll be able to tell Lin Yi Bro about this when I get back to Sky Class Island. Han Jingjing smiled faintly. Getting news about Chi-Chi wasn't bad at all. As for black clothes and hunting bow, Han Jingjing decided to go to Europe herself. It'd be faster that way, and Chi-Chi was in danger in that forest as well. Evil Spirit Town was at the edge of the forest, and there wasn't even a signal in the depths of the forest. Who knew if there were stronger evil spirits lurking around? Kong Xiaobo didn't waste any time and dialed Chi-Chi's number. The call connected instantly. It seemed like she wasn't in the depths of the forest yet. Han Jingjing took the phone with a smile. Chi-Chi. I'm Han Jingjing. Han Jingjing. You're not back at Sky Class Island yet. Is Yi Bro there? Chi-Chi got excited upon hearing that it was Han Jingjing. Evidently, she knew that Han Jingjing and Lin Yi had appeared together in the common world. But remembering that Kong Xiaobo said that Lin Yi was already back at Sky Class Island, she started to worry. Han Jingjing knew that the Yi bro Chi-Chi was talking about was Lin Yi. She smiled. No, Lin Yi bro's back at Sky Class Island already. I'm calling you to ask if you're still in that forest. Chapter 6104. Yeah, it's like this. I'm looking for two friends. They're in that area too. I'm not sure if you've seen them before. One is a white man in black, holding a crossguard sword as a weapon, and the other is a beauty in leather with a bow and arrow. Han Jingjing briefly described their outfits. It wasn't very likely, but young Chi-Chi might have seen them before. I haven't seen the two you mentioned before, but there's been a lot of activity around these 2 days. Most of them are Europeans. It seems like something has appeared in the forest, and I'm thinking of joining in the fun. Maybe my target will show up too. It's been more than a year, I'm going to die if I can't find him. Young Chi-Chi was quite talkative today. Perhaps it was because Han Jingjing and Lin Yi had returned to the common world together. Han Jingjing found it funny too. Although she had seen young Chi-Chi before, they weren't that close. She always thought that young Chi-Chi was cool, but she didn't expect them to get along so well. I'm going to look for my two friends, but I'm not familiar with that area. Can you bring me along? Han Jingjing didn't need anyone to bring her. As long as she got close to the area where Hei Yi and the others were, the divine sense mark would be sensed. She only said that because she wanted Chi-Chi to wait for her. Something had happened in that area, and it would be dangerous for Chi-Chi to go in alone. It'd be safer with her. She'd be able to find Hei Yi and the bow on the way anyway. I see. Alright, when are you coming and where should I meet you? Young Chi-Chi agreed quickly. Then, she discussed the meeting point with Han Jingjing. After reaching an agreement, Han Jingjing was ready to leave. Although she didn't want to travel long distances, it seemed like she had to go this time. Other than spirit hunters, she really didn't know who else to look for help. The people in the villa were the best in the common world, but in terms of primordial spirit, they were far inferior to her. Jingjing, I'll go with you. If anything happens, I'll be able to help. Sun Jingyi was worried about Han Jingjing and offered to go with her. Han Jingjing thought about it and did not reject it. She needed to focus all her energy on suppressing Wang Bao's primordial spirit fusion. With Sun Jingyi by her side, she could indeed help a lot. As for the others, they still had to stay here to guard the villa. Even if they wanted to go with them, Han Jingjing would not allow it. After a simple farewell, Han Jingjing and Sun Jingyi left the villa and headed for the airport. They chartered a small plane to fly to Europe. At this time, Han Jingjing felt that she should build a few more flying saucers. If there were flying saucers, it would be much easier to travel between the continents. The next day, the two arrived at the rendezvous point where young Chi-Chi was already waiting for them. The three beauties were all smiling like flowers because of Lin Yi, looking very intimate. Everyone in the town couldn't help but smile back when they saw them. The charm of beauties was irresistible. After preparing some supplies, young Chi-Chi led the two into the forest far away. She did not waste her time in the past year. She had explored many parts of the forest. In terms of familiarity, none of the locals in the town dared to say that they were more familiar with this place than her. However, after arriving here, Han Jingjing could already sense the divine mark left on black robe and hunting bow. She did not need young Chi-Chi to lead the way and could easily find them. It was just that young Chi-Chi happened to be heading in the right direction, so she did not say much. Just as young Chi-Chi said, there were indeed some people exploring this forest, but they did not know why. Han Jingjing did not care too much about it. Her only targets were black robe and hunting bow. If the spirit hunters could not help her with Wang Ba's primordial spirit fusion, she could only ask Lin Yi for help. After walking for a while, Han Jingjing could sense Black Robe and Hunting Bao more clearly. She felt that they were moving towards her. Hey! I found my target. Young Chi-Chi suddenly cried out in surprise. It had been more than a year. She had wandered around this damn forest for more than a year and finally found the person she was looking for. Han Jingjing extended her divine sense and quickly followed Yang Chi-Chi's gaze to see the target she was talking about. On the surface, it looked like a black man in his 40s. He had a full beard and looked like he had not trimmed it for a long time. His hair was very long and his clothes were not tattered but very dirty. People would believe that he was a barbarian if they saw him out of the blue. However, Han Jingjing could feel a faint soul power fluctuation from his body. Needless to say, this guy was on the same level as a spirit hunter. However, this soul power fluctuation was only slightly stronger than Black Robe and Hunting Bao. With young Chi-Chi's strength, she could easily deal with him. There was no need to worry about any danger. Young Chi-Chi didn't even turn her head. She pressed her hand down lightly, signaling the two to wait. Then, she moved silently, approaching the man like a cat. Han Jingjing nodded to herself. Young Chi-Chi was from a family of assassins after all. This kind of stealth ability was quite strong. If she didn't use her divine sense, she might not be able to detect young Chi-Chi's approach. One had to know that Han Jingjing's strength was far beyond young Chi-Chi's. If she were at Han Jingjing's level, she would be able to crush her easily. After all, the two specialized in different areas. As she was praising Yang Chi-Chi, Han Jingjing's divine sense picked up a small trap in the direction Yang Chi-Chi was going. It was very well hidden, but Yang Chi-Chi should have been able to detect it. But she seemed to have focused all her attention on sneaking around and didn't notice the trap at all.
She lifted her foot and stepped right into it. It was just like what Lin Yi said, an unreliable assassin. Han Jingjing felt that there were a couple of black lines on her forehead, but she didn't have time to remind Chi-Chi right now. She could only charge forward and destroy the trap before Chi-Chi's foot even touched the ground. The refinement fire was silent, but young Chi-Chi accidentally made a lot of noise after destroying the trap. Her target was alerted, and immediately went into a defensive stance. Ah! He found me. Don't even think about running. Young Chi-Chi didn't say anything and changed from a sneak attack to a forceful one. She didn't care that this was against the rules of an assassin.
Chapter 6105. If she missed, then she'd have to run 1,000 miles away. Being discovered and attacked head-on was the worst option, unless she had complete confidence that she could take down the target head-on without any trouble. Chi-Chi was confident that she could take down this barbarian head-on, but more importantly, she'd wasted more than a year's time, even missing the chance to meet Yi Bro. One could only imagine the grudge in her heart, and if she didn't take care of this bastard today, she wouldn't be able to think straight. The bearded black man looked in Chi-Chi's direction cautiously, relaxing a little after realizing that it was 3 young girls. Chi-Chi had been looking for him in this forest for more than a year, and he'd been hiding here for more than a year as well. Even a female monkey would get him excited, let alone 3 beauties. Chi-Chi had been looking for him in this forest for more than a year, and he'd been hiding here for more than a year as well. The guy had a perverted thought in his mind, and so he chuckled as he pulled out 2 bone daggers. With a tap of his foot, he charged at Chi-Chi. Chi-Chi was overjoyed. She'd been afraid that the guy would run away, after all, and it wasn't easy to catch someone in this forest. She was confident in her speed, but if she really let this guy get away, she wouldn't be spending another year here, would she? Han Jingjing stopped not too far away, not intending to interfere. The bearded black man looked like he had some strength, but compared to Chi-Chi, he didn't have any advantage at all. She only needed to watch from the sidelines, since this was Chi-Chi's own problem. It was better for her to handle it. Sun Jingyi had the same thought as she stood beside Han Jingjing, smiling at Chi-Chi. The two were moving at breakneck speeds, and it looked like they were about to collide head-on. Chi-Chi's petite body suddenly froze, and in a blink of an eye, she appeared behind the bearded black man. The guy's bone dagger was already swung out, holding back 30% of his strength due to his tenderness towards the fairer sex. However, the two daggers only hit air, not even touching the hem of Chi-Chi's clothes. Knowing that the situation was not good, the bearded black man immediately changed his move. Using his left leg as the axis, he fiercely flung his body out. In the blink of an eye, he completed a 180-degree turn. His two white bone knives also fiercely slashed out. It was a shame that the two blades didn't even make it halfway before they fell to the ground. Chi-Chi's dagger was already at his neck, and when he tried to twist his body, it was like putting his neck on the blade's blade. His body spun on its own, and the blade sliced through his neck. Chi-Chi paused. She'd wanted to force him to answer a couple of questions. Was this suicide? What a courageous fellow. He's dead. Chi-Chi paused. She'd been looking for this bearded black man for more than a year, and she didn't think that she'd be able to kill him in one move. Compared to the process, the ending was way too simple. Han Jingjing and Sun Jingyi hadn't experienced this for more than a year, and so they didn't know how Chi-Chi felt. The bearded black man was dead anyways, and there was no need for Chi-Chi to stay in this area. Once she found black clothes and the bow, they'd leave together. Chi-Chi shook her head. After all, this was a target she'd been chasing for more than a year. She couldn't help but feel a little empty after killing him. Of course, this feeling was quickly replaced by the joy of completing the mission. Thinking about how she'd be able to leave this godforsaken place soon, Chi-Chi became excited. He took out his phone and snapped a few photos of the bearded man's corpse as proof that he had completed the mission. He also took an earring from the bearded man's ear, which was also a kind of evidence. Han Jingjing's divine sense swept across the bearded man's body, and as expected, she found a soul-collecting bottle. Even if he wasn't a spirit hunter, he was definitely related to one. Young Chi-Chi, this guy has a small bottle in his pocket. It's something good, you can keep it. Han Jingjing couldn't help but remind Chi-Chi when she saw that she had no intention of collecting the loot. The soul-collecting bottle was definitely something good. If she didn't take it with her, it would only benefit others. The bearded man's soul-collecting bottle was almost 90% full. Chi-Chi raised her head and looked at Han Jingjing. She knew that she was the one who killed the bearded man, and so Han Jingjing didn't want to share the loot. It was purely a friendly reminder. Since Han Jingjing said it was a good item, young Chi-Chi didn't hold back. She looked around for a bit and found the 90% full bottle. She put it in her pouch. Other than the soul-collecting bottle, the bearded man didn't have many valuable things. The only thing he had were the two white bone knives. It was a shame that even an assassin like Chi-Chi wouldn't be interested in them, let alone Sun Jingyi and Han Jingjing. Originally, they didn't want the white bone knife. It didn't matter if they just left it here. However, Han Jingjing remembered that they were about to meet Black Cloak and Hunting Bow. Although their weapons were crossguard swords and crossbows, the white bone knife had a weak fluctuation of spiritual power. It would be good to use as a secondary weapon. Young Chi-Chi, if you don't want these two knives, give them to me. I'll give them to my friends. Han Jingjing didn't hold back. They were on the same side, there was no need to be so distant. Chi-Chi nodded, you can have them, I don't need them anyway. Is there anything else you like? Feel free, don't be shy with me. I won't be shy with you. Han Jingjing smiled sweetly and put away the two bone knives. She turned to look in the direction of Hei and the others and said, "Let's go this way." "Sure, let's go then." Chi-Chi shrugged. She didn't really care where they went. She was familiar with this area, and looking for people was just a matter of walking around. Chi-Chi was in a good mood after completing her mission. She would turn back to chat with the two from time to time as she led the way. She was no longer the cool girl she used to be. The relationship between the three quickly warmed up, and they were as close as sisters. They all knew that this was all because of Lin Yi. Otherwise, the three wouldn't even be together. Chapter 6106. If it wasn't for the fact that the forest environment was perfect for hunting Bao, they wouldn't have survived until now. "My two friends are being hunted, let's hurry." Han Jingjing's face was serious. If it wasn't for Wang Ba, she would have gone to help them with all her might. Sun Jingyi knew about Han Jingjing's situation. Without a word, she grabbed their arms and said, "Jingjing, you lead the way, I'll move." Other than Han Jingjing, the strongest here was naturally Sun Jingyi. She wasn't a fighter, and her agility wasn't as high as Chi-Chi's, but her explosive speed was still much faster than the two of them. Chi-Chi didn't even have time to react before her body shot out like an arrow. That speed was indeed a lot faster than hers, and she was quite surprised at it. "Just keep going." Han Jingjing was going to Hei and hunting Bao's position, so she didn't need to change direction. Her divine sense couldn't be compared to Lin Yi's, so Sun Jingyi brought them to Hei and hunting Bao's position in a few breaths. There were 3 Caucasians chasing after the two of them, and 2 of them were obviously soul bodies. This kind of soul body sounded similar to Han Jingjing's soul body, but in fact, they were 2 completely different states. Compared to the soul body was many times more brilliant. "Jingyi sis, Shao Qi, you two help deal with those 3. I'll take care of the 2 spirits." Han Jingjing quickly divided the work, and without waiting for the 2 of them to answer, she rushed toward the 2 soul bodies first. Even if she wasn't in a good condition to fight now, it wouldn't take much effort to deal with these 2 spirits. Hei and hunting Bao were filled with despair when they realized that someone was coming. But when they realized that it was Han Jingjing, whom they wanted to be apprenticed to, their despair turned into hope. They definitely wouldn't die this time. "Hunting Bao, counterattack!" Hei roared. His crossguard sword lit up with a faint white light, and he was about to counterattack. Along the way, he and hunting Bao had been suppressed by the other party. If not for the bountiful harvest in Evil Spirit Town and the many new trump cards they had obtained, as well as the fact that hunting Bao was like a fish in water, the 2 of them would have been killed many times over. Now that Han Jingjing had come to his aid, Black Shirt felt that the resentment in his chest had to be vented. However, he had just taken a step forward when he stupidly stopped. The faint white light on the cross blade immediately disappeared. Hunting Bao was slightly better. He knew that the battle would end soon when he saw Han Jingjing, but he didn't expect it to be this soon. It didn't matter how bad Jingyi was at fighting, these European shrimps were nothing more than a flip of her hand. With the addition of Chi-Chi, an assassin who practiced both internal and external arts, the 3 Caucasians were on the ground in the blink of an eye. As for the 2 soul bodies, Han Jingjing did not hold back. She directly used her spiritual sense pill fire, not even giving them time to scream, and directly turned them into nothingness. Han Jingjing sighed softly. This level of movement wasn't enough to affect Wang Ba's suppression. It would be hard to say if she did it a few more times. "Hey, hunting Bao, why are you guys still here? Who are these guys chasing you?" Han Jingjing came to Hei, who was still in a daze, and asked with a frown. Hei's body shook, and he came back to his senses. He quickly bowed and said respectfully, "Teacher Han, thank you for saving me and hunting Bao." I'm not your teacher. Just call me Han Jingjing from now on. Han Jingjing said helplessly. She had said this a few times already, and it didn't seem to work. Yes, Teacher Han. Hei Yi still respectfully agreed. Han Jingjing really wanted to kick him to death. Did he not understand human language, or did he regard her as a spirit body as a ghost, so he did not want to pay attention to ghosts? Teacher Han, are these two your friends? Hunting Bao put away his bow and ran over to greet them respectfully. He didn't forget to thank Sun Jingyi and Yang Qiqi either. Be it Black Robe or Hunting Bao, they could all tell that Jingyi and Qiqi were masters as well. As for how strong they were, they might be a little weaker than Han Jingjing, but they couldn't tell. It was just that they thought that Han Jingjing was the strongest one. Yes, this is Sun Jingyi, and this is Yang Qiqi. They are my sisters. Han Jingjing introduced the two girls. As for Hei Yi and Hunting Bao, they naturally knew who they were, so they didn't waste time talking. After a few simple greetings, Han Jingjing immediately went straight to the point and said, "This time, I came to find you guys to ask if you can help. Teacher, if there's anything you need, just tell us. Be it climbing a mountain of blades or plunging into a wok of boiling oil, Black Robe and Hunting Bao will definitely not frown." Hei Yi patted his chest with a thumping sound. He had an expression that said he would go through water and tread on fire without hesitation. It was hard for him to say such words with a Chinese accent. It seemed that in order to understand Han Jingjing, they had also studied China. It's like this. Inside my soul, there's another strong soul. Yes, it's even stronger than me. It wants to erase my consciousness and replace it with its own. If it succeeds, I'll disappear completely. Although I'm temporarily suppressing it, it's hard to say what will happen in the long run. Han Jingjing didn't bother to correct them. She came here to find out if the spirit hunters had a way to do this. After she was done, she would return to Sky State Island. It didn't matter if they treated her as a teacher or not. Hei Yi and Hunting Bao froze. They didn't know anything about the soul, but they could automatically replace it with a soul. It was easy to understand Han Jingjing's words. Teacher Han, are you saying that your soul is being stolen? Hunting Bao hesitated and tried to explain Han Jingjing's situation with his own words. Soul stealing. Yes, you could say that. Han Jingjing nodded. She didn't know what soul stealing was, but from the words, it was similar to possession. They were fighting for the soul, not the body, so soul stealing was a suitable way of saying it. Chapter 6107. Han Jingjing did not understand why it was considered amazing to be able to suppress the soul-snatching technique. However, when she thought about it carefully, if she did not have the divine sense elixir fire, Wang Ba could have completely erased her consciousness and absorbed her primordial spirit as a tonic. Teacher Han, when it comes to spirit snatching, it usually results in an instant. It's either a success or a failure. There has never been a case where a powerful spirit snatcher was suppressed and the process of spirit snatching was paused, Hunting Bao explained. He then furrowed his beautiful eyebrows and began to think. Hunting Bao, have you thought of a way to help me? Han Jingjing looked at Hunting Bao, feeling a little hopeful. Hunting Bao nodded slightly and exchanged glances with Black Shirt. Teacher Han, you're too strong. We might not be able to help with a spirit that's even stronger than you. Does that mean you have a way? It's okay, just tell me. I'll see if it works. Han Jingjing was delighted. As long as she could separate Wang Ba, she would accept it even if her primordial spirit was severely damaged. As for the difference between a spirit and a primordial spirit, there was no need to explain it now. They might not understand it even if she explained it. It was more convenient for them to understand it this way. We spirit hunters have a technique that is specially used to separate two soul bodies. This technique is called soul extraction and soul locking. It requires 6 spirit hunters to form a hexagram and simultaneously attack the soul body in the middle in order to separate it. Hunting Bao's brows were still furrowed as he slowly explained the technique he knew. Since Han Jingjing was too strong, Hunting Bao and the others couldn't even imagine a spirit that was stronger than her. Hence, they couldn't be sure if the soul extraction and soul locking method would work. 6 spirit hunters. Han Jingjing was slightly stunned. She was a little depressed when she heard the number of spirit hunters needed. Black Shirt and Hunting Bao were only 2 people. They couldn't even try. Although there were many spirit hunters in Europe, it wasn't easy to find all of them in such a short time. Are those 3 spirit hunters? Young Chi-Chi suddenly pointed at the 3 unconscious Caucasians on the ground. If they were spirit hunters, they only needed to find 1 or 2. There seemed to be a lot of people in this area recently. Perhaps it would be easy to find 1 or 2 spirit hunters. They're not spirit hunters, but evil spirit warlocks, evil people who specialize in cultivating evil spirits as a means of attack. Hei Yi glanced at the 3 people on the ground in disgust. If Han Jingjing and the others weren't here, he would have killed them long ago. Although they are ghost warlocks, Teacher Han, if you can control them, you can make them spirit hunters who can extract and lock souls. After all, ghost warlocks are essentially the same as spirit hunters. Hunting Bao hesitated for a moment before giving a good suggestion. She naturally wasn't willing to let those 3 guys off just like that, but in order to help Han Jingjing, this could be ignored. As for whether she could control them, Hunting Bao wasn't worried at all. Apart from Han Jingjing, the 2 beautiful girls were similarly powerful to the point of being unfathomable. They definitely wouldn't have any problems dealing with the 3 ghost warlocks. Young Chi-Chi didn't say anything, and in a flash, she appeared next to the 3 on the ground. She raised her slender hand, and with 3 crisp slaps on the face, the ghost warlocks woke up from their unconscious state. Hei Yi and Hunting Bao broke out in cold sweat. This little beauty was really tough. You 3, do you want to live or die? Young Chi-Chi's little face was cold as she looked down at the ghost warlocks on the ground. The 3 ghost warlocks didn't know what was going on, and they couldn't care less about their burning faces. They just subconsciously nodded and said, "Want to live, want to live." The souls they had raised were all dead. One was killed by the Hunting Bao, and the other 2 were burned by Han Jingjing. None of them were fools. When faced with an existence that they could not resist, it was wise to bow down as soon as possible. Since you want to live, be obedient. As long as you do well, I won't mistreat you. Young Chi-Chi smiled disdainfully as she took out a bottle from her bag. She poured out 3 black pills. This is a slow-acting poison. It'll take effect in 3 days. Take 1 each, and as long as you don't try anything funny, I'll give you the antidote later. Otherwise, you'll choose to end your own lives early. The 3 ghost warlocks, who were already sitting up, looked at each other. To be honest, they didn't suspect that young Chi-Chi's poison was fake at all. They knew how to poison people and control people like this, and that was why they didn't dare take it easily. The problem was that they didn't have a choice at all. Take the pill and hope for a chance of survival, or die right away. Normally speaking, this wasn't even a choice. Since they had no choice, they could only obediently obey. Without much hesitation, the 3 ghost warlocks took the pills with frowns on their faces. After each of them swallowed 1, they stood aside with unsightly expressions. Young Chi-Chi was still a little worried, and in a flash, she slashed at 4 trees in 4 different directions before returning to her original spot. It took her no more than a second or 2. The 3 felt their vision blur, and the 4 trees around them snapped at the same time, falling back with a rumble. The cuts were smooth as a mirror, definitely cut in half. Run if you want, unless you think you're faster than us and have the antidote on your own. Young Chi-Chi warned coldly as she twirled the dagger in her hand before disappearing. Who knew where it went? We wouldn't dare. No, we won't run. The three spirit warlocks broke out in a cold sweat as they smiled and bowed. Even with the poison in their stomachs, they wouldn't dare run even if it was just Chi-Chi's speed and power, let alone the fact that they had the poison in their stomachs that would take effect in 3 days. As for the souls that were killed, they didn't even think about them. They were dead, they could be raised later. As for revenge, they just wanted to be buried with the souls. Young Chi-Chi humphed lightly, a satisfied look on her face. With these 3 ghost warlocks, she only needed to find a spirit hunter to help. Chapter 6108. I'm sorry, I forgot to tell you. Black Shirt remembered this and quickly bowed to apologize to Han Jingjing. He then continued, we were going to go back, but after we left, we received a notice that an evil spirit king appeared in this area. This kind of evil spirit king is a treasure in our line of work. It happened to be not far from us, so Hunting Bao and I came back to take a look. There should be quite a few spirit hunters nearby who received the news. It shouldn't be a problem to find one to help. If it were the Black Cloak and Hunting Bao before they went to Evil Soul Town, they might not have gotten themselves involved in this mess. However, after their trip to Evil Soul Town, both their strength and their equipment had greatly improved. Only then did they have the confidence to seek out an opportunity. Han Jingjing wasn't interested in the mysterious evil spirit king at all. She just wanted to gather 6 spirit hunters as soon as possible to complete the spirit extraction and soul lock, and extract Wang Ba from her soul. Within the range of Han Jingjing's divine sense, she hadn't found any other spirit hunters yet. She could only find Black Shirt and Hunting Bao by relying on the divine sense marks left on them, so she didn't have any good ideas at the moment. If only young Chi-Chi had captured the black-bearded man alive. Whether he was a spirit hunter or not, he still had soul power waves on him. He could have easily made up the numbers. Thinking of the bearded man, Han Jingjing then remembered that she had brought the 2 white bone daggers. They were originally for Black Shirt and Hunting Bao, so she took them out and handed one to each of them. These are the spoils of war. You 2 can play with them. Han Jingjing gave them the white bone daggers casually, but Black Shirt and Hunting Bao were slightly shocked when they saw it. White bone killing spirit dagger. Miss Han, how did you get it? Could it be that you killed the Dark Devil Man? Black Robe respectfully received the white bone dagger and asked casually. What the hell was a Dark Demonkin? Han Jingjing didn't know. I got these 2 daggers from a black-bearded man. Just now, that guy was killed by Shao Qi in one move. I don't know if he's the Dark Demon King you mentioned. Han Jingjing pointed at Yang Chi-Chi, and the 3 spirit warlocks looked at Yang Chi-Chi with more and more reverence. Listening to the description and the appearance of the white bone killing spirit blade, they could basically confirm that the Dark Demon King was done for. In their circle, the Dark Demon Man was quite famous for his ferocity. In a situation where they didn't have a soul body, the 3 of them combined would probably only be able to take 1 slash from him. Hunting Bao solemnly received the white bone killing spirit dagger. After bowing and expressing his thanks, he could not help but guess, it should be him. This guy has disappeared for a year or 2. I didn't expect him to be hiding here. I wonder if the newly appeared evil spirit king has anything to do with him. While they were talking, a person appeared in Han Jingjing's divine sense. Looking at his movement style and equipment, he should also be a spirit hunter. Anyway, 9 out of 10 people who would come to this area at this time were spirit hunters or ghost warlocks. Jingy sis, there's someone in that direction. Help me find him and see if you can help. Han Jingjing pointed in that direction. She and Sun Jingyi no longer needed to be courteous with each other. Sun Jingyi didn't say much. After a slight nod, she exerted strength in her legs and disappeared in a flash. The three spirit warlocks were even more silent. They thought that Yang Qiqi's speed was terrifying enough, but this Jingyi sis was even faster. They didn't have a chance to escape at all. Black Clothes and Hunting Bao's eyes lit up as well. They felt that the mysterious China was indeed different. Any random girl that came out of it was so strong. The two were even more determined to follow Han Jingjing to China to train. Before the two could finish their thoughts, Sun Jingyi had already run back with a person in her hand. With her strength, if the other party was unprepared, it would be a piece of cake. Shanling, why are you here? You came here alone. Black Cloak and Hunting Bao were surprised. It was obvious that the person being carried was someone they knew. Og, Black Clothes and Hunting Bao. Who is this beauty? Can you ask her to put me down first? This guy called Shanling was a Caucasian in his 30s. He had slightly curly brown hair and a very clean-shaven face. He looked quite handsome. It was just that the scene of a 1.9m tall man being carried by a 1.7m beauty was a little funny, and it made him very embarrassed. So it's someone I know. That makes it even easier. Sun Jingyi smiled and put Shanling down. She returned to Han Jingjing's side slowly. Alright, you guys can catch up later. Right now, let's talk about soul extraction and soul lock. Han Jingjing didn't want to wait a second longer. As long as she could get Wang Ba out, anything was fine. Soul extraction and soul lock. Black Clothes, what are you two doing? And aren't those three spirit warlocks? Can you guys have fun together now? Shanling approached Black Clothes and Hunting Bao and asked Black Clothes softly. At the same time, he kept glancing at Han Jingjing and the others. It's a long story. This is Teacher Han. She's a spirit body, but there's a stronger spirit body trying to steal her soul. It's just that it's temporarily suppressed by some mysterious Eastern secret technique. So, we have to use soul extraction and soul lock to extract that powerful spirit body. Black Clothes also lowered his voice and explained to Shanling, Black Clothes, are you done? Can your friend help you? Han Jingjing glanced at Black Clothes. If Shanling wasn't willing to help, she wouldn't force him to help for the sake of the two of them. Anyway, there should be other spirit hunters nearby. She just had to find one as soon as possible. Teacher Han, don't worry. Shanling will be fine. We'll start right away. Black Clothes was now focused on following Han Jingjing to Huaxia. Of course, he had to take on everything first. After assuring Han Jingjing, he quickly turned back to Shanling. Shanling, now listen up. There can't be any accidents in this soul extraction and soul lock. Help us this once, and we'll repay this favor in the future. Shanling looked hesitant. He had personally experienced how powerful Sun Jingyi was. Since Han Jingjing was able to stand beside her, he thought that she wouldn't be any worse. Chapter 6109. Shanling, as long as you can help, it doesn't matter if you fail or not, this bottle of soul power is yours. Hunting Bao was even more straightforward as he took out his soul-gathering bottle. The soul power inside was what they and Han Jingjing had collected in Spectre Town. It was definitely of high quality. Shanling was immediately moved. Black Shirt and Hunting Bao's favor aside, just this bottle of soul power was worth more than 10 million euros. There was no reason to reject it regardless of success or failure. Since there wasn't much danger even if they failed, Shanling nodded and smiled. We're old friends, there's no need to be so polite. Alright. Then it's a deal. This guy didn't hold back at all. He took out his soul-gathering bottle and transferred the entire bottle of soul power over. After putting it away carefully, he patted his chest in satisfaction. Alright, when do we start? Black Shirt and Hunting Bow looked at Han Jingjing. Of course, this was up to her to decide. With Sun Jingyi and Yang Qiqi here, they could do it anytime and anywhere. There's no time to lose, let's start now. Do you have any other restrictions? Han Jingjing didn't want to wait any longer. If it was possible here, then they'd do it here. There's no restriction, here is fine too. Black Shirt replied quickly as he directed the 3 ghost warlocks to their respective positions. Hunting Bow and Shanling didn't need to be told, they were already ready. Black Robes was the last to land. The 6 of them surrounded Han Jingjing and focused their minds. A faint white light began to shine from their bodies, and faint soul force undulations began to spread out from beneath their feet. First, they formed a circle with the 6 of them standing at one point of the circle. When the circle formed by the soul power stabilized, a straight line extended from each person's feet, connecting them to the person on their right. Thus, the 2 overlapping equilateral triangles formed a perfect hexagram. Han Jingjing was in the center of the hexagram. Her primordial spirit body was slightly unstable, as if it could return to its primordial spirit state at any time. This situation had never happened before. It was clearly caused by the 6 people's soul extraction and soul lock. Europe really does have something special about them. These spirit hunters should be low-level cultivators. I wonder if their high-level cultivators are more powerful. If there's a chance, I should ask around. The corners of Han Jingjing's mouth curled up slightly. She did not forcibly control the condensation of her essence soul body. Instead, she directly transformed into her essence soul state. In this state, it would be easier for Wang Ba to fuse with it. However, it was also because of this that it would be easier to strip Wang Ba's primordial spirit. Noticing that Han Jingjing had transformed into her primordial spirit state, Black Shirt and the other 5 widened their eyes at the same time. They let out a low shout in unison, and the undulations of their soul power immediately increased sharply. Ha ha ha, little girl, you finally can't suppress me anymore, right? Obediently let me fuse with you, and you'll have a share of the glory when I rampage through the world in the future. Wang Ba noticed the change in Han Jingjing's state. He laughed maniacally and started to fuse again. Although he was not in the form of a particle ball, he could still fuse in the form of a primordial spirit. After all, a part of it had been completely fused. However, Wang Ba soon sensed that something was wrong. His primordial spirit was being pulled by a strange force. Not only was it unable to fuse with Han Jingjing's primordial spirit, but it was also being pulled away. Not only that, but the small part of the fused primordial spirit was also going through the same process. What's going on? What did you do? Wang Ba, who had been suppressed, did not know what was happening in the outside world. Therefore, he did not notice the hexagram formed by Black Shirt and the soul extracting and soul locking technique. Han Jingjing was relieved. Black Robe's soul extracting and soul locking was indeed effective. No matter what, Wang Ba's primordial spirit had started to separate from her primordial spirit. Although it was a little slow, she was satisfied as long as there was progress. Black Shirt and the other 5 looked extremely solemn. Although they knew how to extract and lock one's soul, no one would usually use it. Therefore, no one was confident that it would succeed. It seemed to be working now, but Black Shirt and the others knew that the soul that was trying to seize Han Jingjing's soul was really powerful beyond their imagination. It was just the beginning, and they were almost at their limit. They did not know how long they could last. Han Jingjing's divine sense had been paying close attention to their situation. After the soul power fluctuation of the hexagram reached a peak, it began to struggle and slowly descend. Although Black Shirt and the others tried their best to pull it higher, the fluctuation of their soul power continued to descend steadily. It looks like Black Cloak and Hunting Bow's strength is limited. They can't maintain this soul-extracting and soul-locking hexagram. I can't completely rely on them. Han Jingjing was an intelligent person. With just a thought, she knew what she needed to do. A divine sense pill fire started burning in Han Jingjing's primordial spirit. It landed mercilessly on the small part of Wang Ba and Han Jingjing's primordial spirit that had fused completely. Are you crazy? Are you courting death? Wang Ba immediately screamed. The damage of the alchemic fire to the primordial spirit was only second to that of lightning, and it was only slightly weaker. Let alone Wang Ba, even Han Jingjing would have to suffer fatal damage from such an attack. As it was a primordial spirit that had fused, Han Jingjing was not immune to the divine sense pill fire at all. If she wanted to hurt Wang Ba, she had to hurt herself. Such a sudden self-destructive attack caught Wang Ba, who was focused on resisting the soul-extracting and soul-locking, off guard. He subconsciously wanted to stay away from the soul alchemy fire, so the soul-extracting and soul-locking of Black Robe and the others easily extracted more than half of him. The 6 of them, who were already at their limits, suddenly recovered and felt that they could continue. Han Jingjing's primordial spirit was also injured by the divine sense pill fire. Her primordial spirit became much more illusory and transparent. However, it was all worth it. Although the divine sense pill fire did not completely destroy their primordial spirits, it was still 70 to 80% destroyed. Wang Ba's desperate escape caused the last bit of connection to be completely severed. In other words, the remaining small part of the primordial spirit was completely controlled by Han Jingjing. After a period of fusion, it would become Han Jingjing's primordial spirit and have nothing to do with Wang Ba anymore. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.